Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto became a vampire. Naruto, the hated Kyuubi Jinchuriki, is sent to a school for monsters to complete his education before he can return to Konoha. But in a place filled with monsters he wonders just who the true monster is. Welcome aboard! Chapter 15, Plans and Strategies. They were in her room on the couch. She was curled up on his lap and they were having a rather intense make-out session. His mouth eagerly explored hers as his hands caressed her underneath her shirt. When his hand rubbed her in just the right way, she would give out a tiny gasp of pleasure. After telling her what had happened, she had insisted that he come back with her to her apartment so she could console him. Naruto decided that this was one of the best parts about having a girlfriend. If he'd still been alone, he'd have spent the night moping, feeling sorry for himself. Maybe he would have worked out some to get rid of a little of the frustration. This is so much better. After a very satisfying time, Mocha rested her head against his neck and let out a contented sigh. Naruto, being a 16-year-old boy, would have liked to have done quite a bit more. But he was sure that if he even tried it, the other Mocha would end his life even before his village could. Naruto-kun, Mocha spoke up while continuing to rest against him. Did you find anything useful in the book? He glanced at the book that was lying open on a small coffee table. He had insisted on going back to his room to retrieve it. Not really, there's only a small entry on the Hyuga caged bird seal, not even a half a page. It doesn't mention anything about how the seal is applied or if it can be safely removed. There was one interesting thing though. What's that? She asked and began to nuzzle his neck. It specifically mentions that for the seal to be activated the subject must be in the line of sight of the user. That at least means the Hokage can't just kill me while he's sitting in his office. Someone would have to be sent here to do it. He shrugged. That's still not really great news. It means anyone who is taught the proper hand sign can execute me as soon as they see me. She looked up at him nervously. So, what are you going to do? He bent his neck to give her a quick kiss. For right now? Nothing. Nothing? She sounded surprised. But didn't you say you no longer had any loyalty to your village and that you were going to be a rogue ninja? I did say that, and I meant every word. Then how can you do nothing? For the time being it's the best course of action. I may have decided to go rogue, but right now only the two of us know that. The Hokage and Jiraiya and all the rest are probably convinced they have me right where they want me. They're probably 100% sure I'll do whatever they say. So that means so long as I keep playing the part of the obedient little soldier, they'll leave me alone. If I up and leave though, they'll send hunter Nins after me, and you can bet every one of them will know the secret hand sign to kill me. So I'll stay right here and play my part until I accomplish two things. What two things? Well, first I have to get this damn seal removed. Until that's done, I really am at the Hokage's mercy. He sighed. The problem is I don't know much about seals except the basics. And since Jiraiya is a seal master, I seriously doubt what he put on me will be easy to get rid of. To be honest, I'm not even sure where to start. Could you try asking the Kyuubi or Kuyu? Naruto shook his head. No. Definitely not. I wouldn't trust anything that damn fox tells me about removing seals. He would definitely try and trick me into removing or at least weakening his seal while getting rid of the other one. I trust Kuyu only a little more, but that's only because he can't kill me without killing his precious Lord Kyuubi. But even if he knows about seals, I wouldn't trust him not to try and mess with the main one while pretending to help with Jiraiya's. Well, what about asking Yukari-chan? He frowned. Maybe, but from what I've seen her magic has nothing at all to do with chakra. I doubt she would know anything. Maybe she has a book that could help. He thought about it. Well, you know that's a good idea. It's at least worth asking about. Though I'll have to be very careful about how I ask, I don't want her asking me too many questions. Mocha looked a bit sad. You're not going to tell her about what happened to you. No, I'm not, Naruto said firmly. You're the only one I trust with this. So far as Yukari and Kurumo-chan are concerned, I had a pleasant chat with the pervert who came here just to check up on me. I don't think either of them would ever betray you, Naruto-kun. I don't think so either, but even though I like and care about them, I'm not ready to trust them with my life. He bent down and kissed her again. This time it was a deeper and much slower kiss. You're the only one I'll trust completely. I love you, Mocha-chan, and I trust you with my life. She felt warmth fill her heart. She leaned forward and gave him a kiss of her own. I love you too, Naruto-kun, and I will never abandon or betray you. She was a little sorry that she couldn't talk to Yukari and Kurumo about this, but at the same time she was happy to know he trusted her more than anyone else. You know, I think I may know somewhere we can go to get help with your seal. Do you feel like taking a trip with me to the world of Jin Sunday? He looked at her. Is it safe? Absolutely safe. Just as long as you don't say anything and let me do all the talking. Okay. I guess. So, removing the seal is one thing. What's the other? I need more of the Kyuubi's power. From everything I've read and from the stories Irika told me, it's obvious I've only just scratched the surface of what's locked inside me. I also need to be able to draw it at will and not just when the damn fox lets me. When the day comes that I settle accounts, I'll need to be able to use all of the Kyuubi's power. What happens when you've done those two things? Then it will be time for me to leave here. He looked down and saw she was worried. When that time comes, will you come with me? Yes, she said instantly. Don't you want to think about it? You don't have to answer right. He was abruptly cut off when she put a finger on his lips. I don't need to think about it, Naruto-kun, she said serenely. I love you. Since we've been together, I haven't felt lonely. I don't care where we go or what hardships we face. I'll be happy just so long as I can be with you. He smiled down at her, feeling relieved that they could be together. He loved her. As long as he could be with her, he was sure he could face anything. Mocha-chan, he said tenderly. Naruto-kun. She pressed her face against his neck. You smell so good. He chuckled a little, knowing where this was leading. Go ahead. You sure? Yeah. Thank you, Naruto-kun. She eagerly bit him. Despite the pain, he smiled as his beloved girl sucked out his blood. The things we do for love. Jiraiya was glad to be back in the village and off that weird bus thing. Give him the back of a frog any day. Strolling through the gates, everyone was happy to see him. Ninja and citizens alike greeted him and welcomed him back. Ever since the attack that had killed the third, he'd been leading the fight to avenge Sarutobi. The war that had been going on between his village and the villages of Sand and Sound had been long and bitter. For the first couple of years, they'd been forced on the defensive, mainly due to the power of that psychopath Gaara. The brutal power of the One Tail had been one of the reasons the Fifth had decided to send Naruto to Yukai Academy, in the hopes he would learn to draw out his full potential. Gaara was an example of the best and worst possibilities of a Jinchuriki. On the battlefield, there was no denying his presence was an awesome factor. But he was feared by his own people. He'd even been feared by his father and siblings. The Fifth wanted that kind of power fighting for Konoha, but he did not want an uncontrolled psychopath roaming the streets. Jiraiya had been the only one capable of fighting Gaara on anything close to equal terms. The first time they'd met had been on the day of the sneak attack. Gaara had already been wounded by Sasuke and Jiraiya had beaten him easily. His swift defeat had infuriated Gaara and left him even more unstable and dangerous than before. They'd met in battle several more times after that. Each time Jiraiya had triumphed, but each time it had gotten harder and harder as Gaara learned from his failures and grew more powerful. Being forced to split their efforts with Sound in the north and Sand in the south, things had looked bad for a while. At least until Gaara's assassination by Akatsuki. That had changed the course of the war. with Gaara and the Shikakugan Konoha had gone over onto the offensive. They were closing in on Suna and would be able to put the place under siege soon. Once San was gone, they would be able to finally commit their full resources to exterminating the snake that had killed Sarutobi's sensei. "Sensei, it's good to see you." Jiraiya looked up to see his apprentice coming up to him. "Hello Sasuke, did you manage to stay out of trouble while I was gone?" Despite not intending to, that had come out with a sarcastic edge to it. Sasuke was used to it from his teacher and simply ignored it. "I did, I managed to control myself for a whole day." "So, are we going on a mission to Wind or Sound? Or are you finally ready to let me sign the Toad summoning contract and actually work on that?" Jiraiya frowned at the young Jonin. There was no denying Sasuke's skill or courage. He'd successfully completed 15S and A rank missions. People talked of him as the second most powerful ninja in the whole village, behind only his teacher. Yet despite all that, there was just something about his apprentice that he couldn't completely trust. Despite all the courage he'd shown fighting for Konoha, there was something still brooding inside the boy. He still saw himself as an avenger whose purpose was to destroy his brother and repopulate the Uchiha clan. Those were his priorities. And though he never come out and said it, Jiraiya was certain all his effort at becoming stronger was so he could kill Itachi one day. Serving the village was secondary to that. "I've told you before," Jiraiya said coolly. "Being my apprentice doesn't entitle you to sign the contract. I'll let you sign it when and if I think you're ready." "The Hokage thinks I'm ready," Sasuke said with a slight smirk. Jiraiya stopped to smile back at him. "The Hokage doesn't decide this. It's one of the few things the Hokage does not have the authority to decide. The person holding a summoning contract has always had the right to decide who does and who does not sign the contract. Just be glad the Hokage forced me to make you my apprentice." Sasuke looked unhappy. "Are you still complaining about that? Aren't you finally willing to admit it was a good idea? Haven't I been a great student? Haven't I been a great ninja? What more could you ask for? Someone who doesn't think he's owed whatever he wants just because of his clan's name." That had always bothered him about Sasuke. He demanded power and just assumed being given it was his right. For some reason he thought of Naruto then. The kid had really had it rough, but even after what had been done to him, he'd still cared about his sensei. Sasuke would only have cared about himself. I wonder what the kid would say if I offered to teach him when he came back to the village. But remembering what had happened, Jiraiya could only shake his head. He'd probably tell me to go to hell. He'd certainly have the right to. Before he could say any more, a pair of high-pitched squeals cut him off. "Sasuke-kun!" Two girls cried out in unison. Immediately a pink-haired and blonde-haired girl fell on Sasuke like a couple ravenous wolves. From what he could tell, these two had been infatuated with Sasuke since they were children. The pink-haired one had even been his teammate for a while. Sasuke had never shown any interest in either of them, but neither of them had cared. As Sasuke's reputation had grown, so had their shameless determination to win his attention. Jiraiya found both teenage girls quite attractive. Normally he would be highly entertained by the sight of two such beauties fighting for a man. But since becoming Sasuke's sensei, he'd been forced to endure endless rounds of their mindless, forehead girl Enopig shouting matches. He had long since come to agree with his student. Even if they were attractive, they were both annoying. "Have fun with your fangirls, Sasuke, I have to report to the Hokage." The great Jiraiya did not have to wait to see the Hokage. Upon entering the Hokage's office, he gave his leader a slight bow. "Hokage-sama." The Hokage nodded to him respectfully. "Jiraiya-san." The way he greeted the Hokage said a lot about his relationship with the fifth. He had always called Sarutobi old man, and Minato had always been kid. There was no such familiarity and warmth between him and Hayashi. There was respect and a certain amount of trust, but the relationship was strictly a professional one. "I have the written report." He placed it on the Hokage's desk in front of him. I am eager to read it, the Hokage told him. But give me a quick synopsis. Is it true that he used the Kyuubi's chakra? Jiraiya nodded tiredly. It is, and per my orders I placed the second seal on him and demonstrated its effects. He now understands his situation. Good, Hayashi nodded. I am very pleased to know that situation has been dealt with and is now in hand. It could have been dealt with differently, Jiraiya said. I won't have a psychopath Jinchuriki running wild in Konoha as Gaara did in Suna. Especially not when his potential for destruction is so much greater. There has never been anything to suggest Naruto is a psychopath or even that he is mentally unbalanced. Given everything he has endured, I'd say he is actually quite well adjusted. Or perhaps, he was on the verge of snapping one day. We could have brought him back and given him a real chance. If there had been problems, I could have planted the seal then. Given what he is, even one problem might have been disastrous. Hayashi shook his head. There's no more point in arguing this now, it's done. Yes, it is, and Kami help us if that boy ever tries to get revenge against us. Jiraiya said quietly. If he turns on us, he will meet a swift end, thanks to your seal. Now tell me, how close is he to wielding the full power of the Kyuubi? He's nowhere near that. From what he described to me, it seems he reached only the first tail state. That is a pity, but still, it is a promising start. Hopefully he can reach his full potential within the next 3 years. I want to renew my request that he be brought back to the village. I'd be willing to train him myself. Hayashi shook his head. Denied, we have already discussed this option. You have admitted to me you doubt you could get him beyond the four-tail state without risking death or his loss of control. The information I have about his current location leads me to believe that he will receive greater instruction there and eventually reach the nine-tail state. Until he reaches that point, Uzumaki Naruto will remain where he is. Then can we at the very least give him some information about what's going on and the danger he is in? He doesn't even know we've been at war for the last 4 years. Not to mention he knows nothing of Akatsuki or the threat they pose to him. According to my informants, they have extracted 7 of the Biju, though for what purpose we still don't know. Only Naruto and the 8-tail remain. There is no reason for Naruto to know anything about this war or our current situation. Let him remain blissfully ignorant, that will surely make it easier for him to concentrate on gaining the Kyuubi's power. As for Akatsuki, there is no reason at all to panic him. His location is our most highly guarded secret. Even if they somehow learned of it, Ukai Academy is almost impossible to reach without aid. He is far safer where he is now than if he were brought back here. My decision is made, Jiraiya-san. Naruto stays where he is until he has the Kyuubi's full power. Jiraiya knew that Hayashi's mind was made up. Even if it wasn't in his heart, Jiraiya knew it was already too late. The chance Naruto might truly come to care for and want to protect the village had been destroyed by his own actions. By what he had done to his own godson. Please forgive me, 4th Hokage. Chapter 16, I take you as my. So, Yukari couldn't help? Mocha asked. No, I'm afraid it turns out the book she gave me was the only one her family had that focused on ninja. Apparently, witches don't have much interest in jutsus or chakra. Was she curious why you were asking about seals? A little bit. I covered myself by saying I was interested in any book she had that touched in ninja abilities. She seemed to accept that. Does it bother you at all that we're telling so many lies to our friends? Not really, Naruto admitted. I've had to lie about almost everything since the day I left Konoha. Frankly, I've told so many lies over the years, it's being honest that seems weird. He shrugged. Anyway, in the ninja world, being deceitful isn't really seen as a negative, unless you're lying to your own superiors. He glanced out the bus window at the total darkness they were traveling through. So, are you sure this place is safe for us to visit? Mocha nodded enthusiastically. Of course, it is. It's absolutely safe. Just don't talk to anyone, and especially don't make any promises or agreements. Where we're going you will be held to your words even if they aren't what you meant. The bus came out of the darkness and onto a high plateau. Here we are, the bus driver called out. I hope you find what you are looking for. Please be careful when exiting the bus. He looked directly at Mocha. So, you will not need me to return you? Oh no, thank you bus driver, san. Mocha said. Wait a minute, Naruto spoke up a bit nervously. How are we supposed to get back? No need to worry young man, the bus driver said. She knows the way. Mocha stepped off the bus first. The instant she did so she was surrounded by a demonic aura and quickly transformed into her adult self. Naruto was caught completely off guard by this and stared at her as the bus pulled away. Nani? But you still have the rosary on. How can you change? The adult Mocha gave him an amused look. I see the other Mocha neglected to mention there are some powerful magics in play on this world. They are far more powerful than the magic used in the rosary. So long as we are here in this world the rosary's power will be suppressed. Well I suppose that's a good thing. I mean it's a lot safer being with this version of you. True, she answered. Let's head towards Azkara. Walking side by side they headed towards the settlement out in the distance. As they traveled Naruto was surprised to note that Mocha seemed to be in a rather pleasant mood. That should have been enough to tell him he was in trouble. So, you are a liar. She said in an agreeable voice. Ha? On the bus, did you not say that you lie so much you find being truthful strange? He looked over at her feeling a bit worried. The way you say that you make me sound like a dishonest person. Are you not? Mocha asked. As someone who constantly tells lies, are you not by definition dishonest? Now hold on, it's not like I had a choice most of the time. For someone like me the truth can be dangerous. Besides when I went to Tokyo, I was given a cover identity and I had to lie. But you often lie even when you do not need to. She gave him a meaningful look. Have you ever lied to me? No, he meant to say. Yes, he did say. What the hell? Why did I say that? Her pleasant mood seemed to disappear and she was now eyeing him as if she were a cat and he were a mouse. I see, you should be aware Uzumaki Naruto that I detest liars. But when I lied to you, I was only trying to protect you or protect my pride. I never told you any big lies. Really? She asked coolly. Were you being truthful all the times you told the other Mocha you loved her? Yes. I love her with my whole heart and have never loved anyone the way I do her. I see, her manner seemed to soften just a bit. What do you think of Kurumu? I think of her as nothing more than a friend. I think she's sweet and sexy and I love how she always finds a way to press her tits against me. If I weren't totally in love with Mocha-chan I would jump her bones every single chance I got. He stopped walking and literally slapped his hand over his mouth. What is wrong with me? I actually told Mocha I wanted to jump her bones? Is that so? Mocha's voice had a slight edge to it. Are you going to kill me? I have not decided yet, though I seem to be leaning in that direction. She got moving and Naruto had to hurry to keep up with her. She was wondering if she really wanted to ask him any more questions. Because of the enchantments he couldn't lie. If he'd known about them he could have given her careful answers that were truthful but reveal little. But since he was trying to tell her lies he wound up telling her much more truth than he wanted to. Glancing over at him she decided this was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Have you ever kissed her? No. Have you wanted to? Yes, he looked horrified. But the only girl I really want to kiss is Mocha-chan and I would never kiss anyone else while I was with her. I see, she said calmly. So, you truly love my other self? Yes, I do. And what do you think of me? She asked quietly. What do you think of the scary Mocha? I love you too, he told her. I love you because you are still Mocha no matter how scary. I also really want to have sex with you. Naruto once again looked horrified. Is that so? Mocha seemed to be amused again. More than you want sex with Kurumu? A lot more, he admitted. Ever since that night I took your clothes off I've dreamt about seeing you naked and imagined what it would be like for us to do it. He paused and wondered what sort of curse he was under to keep spewing such things. You're really going to kill me now, aren't you? I am not offended to know that you want my body. They continued walking for a bit. Why did you ask the other Mocha to go with you when you decide to leave the academy? Ha? Because I want us to be together for always. You and the gentle Mocha, you mean? No, me and Mocha-chan. I want to be with both of you. There is something you should know then, one day the gentle Mocha will disappear. She touched the rosary. The two individuals you call Mocha were created by this rosary's enchantment. Neither of us is the real Mocha, though I am far closer to her than my other self. In a sense you have never met Mocha. One day we will both decide to return to our true self. On that day I will destroy the rosary and our two psyches will merge. The gentle Mocha you know will be gone. That was news. Naruto had never even considered the possibility something like that might happen. He had grown used to dealing with her two sides and had assumed that was how things would remain. The idea of never seeing the sweet innocent Mocha again left him feeling very sad. It was like being told someone you cared for had a terminal illness. But even though she will physically vanish, her memories and thoughts will remain. Her love for you will not disappear. They continued to walk in silence for a bit as he thought about that. It doesn't matter, he said in a soft undertone. Despite that she'd heard him. Are you certain? He looked at her. Yeah, I am. I love Mocha no matter what form she takes. I like the gentle her and I like the strong her and I'm sure I'll like whatever Mocha the two of you become. Mocha gently shook her head. You cannot know that, Uzumaki Naruto. He looked over at her. Do you love me? A rare look of surprise crossed her face. That is an irrelevant question. The other Mocha loves you, that should be enough. So, if I were killed or if I just left without you someday you wouldn't care at all? I have already told you, if anything happened to you the gentle Mocha's heart would shatter. What about your heart? What would you feel? I would feel concerned for the other Mocha. And nothing else? She frowned at him and spoke coolly. I am not the same as the other Mocha. My heart is not as gentle and soft as hers. Tell me something, why did you put on the rosary originally? She hesitated before answering. It was because I was lonely. I lived with my father and my brothers and sisters in a vast castle. Even though I had family we were not close. My relationship to my siblings was based on rivalry and we were not affectionate. I had a younger sister I made some effort with, but even with her. She sighed and seemed oddly human for a moment. Even with others of my own kind I was lonely and so one day I sought out my mother. She gave me the rosary and I decided to attempt to live the life of a young girl in the hopes of finding someone I could care for, someone who would take away my loneliness. And are you lonely now? She turned her head and looked away. No. He smiled at her. Neither am I. They walked on towards Azkara without saying anything more. As they passed the signs Naruto read them out. Let no lie be spoken. Let no deception stand. Let your wish be fulfilled. Let the price be paid. He glanced over to her. Let no lie be spoken, huh? You could have warned me. True, she admitted with a smirk. But it would not have been nearly as entertaining. As they entered Azkara, the streets were as packed as on her last visit. And just as before the various beings made a wide berth around her. Is this normal? Naruto asked. Yes, Mocha said. Just about all other people avoid vampires. It has always been like this, even with the servants in my father's castle. The boys you worry so much about in school. If they saw me like this, they would react the same. She then did something that surprised him. She reached out and wrapped her arm around his. He looked over at her in surprise. Do you object to walking with me like this? She asked calmly. Is this a privilege only the other Mocha is allowed? No, I'm always happy to be close to you, Mocha-chan. I'm just surprised, that's all. Walking arm in arm, she led them through the crowded streets to their destination. Melzer frowned and regretfully shook his head. I am very sorry, Akashiya Mocha, but I'm afraid there is nothing I can do for him. What do you mean nothing? She demanded. You have access to powerful magics and artifacts. Surely you have something that can remove a simple human seal. The Jinn smiled at her. Oh, I certainly could. Then do so and we will discuss your price. Mocha stated. Well, part of my price would have to include your friend's life. That seal has been connected to the functions of his heart. If it has simply erased, his heart will also be destroyed. I am afraid no general magic will help with this. The only safe way to remove it will be with the aid of a practiced seal master. Why am I not surprised that it wouldn't be easy, Naruto muttered. If you cannot help me, I can take my business elsewhere. Melzer shrugged. Go ahead, we Jinn grant wishes. None of us bother to study something as mundane as sealing. No one else here will be able to help you, I'm afraid. She let out a low annoyed growl. She damn well knew he was telling the truth. So, there's nothing at all that you can do? Nothing that wouldn't kill him. He looked over at Naruto. You must be quite an interesting fellow. I never imagined Mocha would make one trip here for someone, never mind two. I never knew she was the type to care. Watch yourself, merchant, she said sharply. If there's nothing you can do, we're done here. She grabbed Naruto's arm and led away from the shop. As they left, Naruto grinned at her. You came all the way here for me before? It was nothing, she muttered. This is where I acquired the potion of summoning for you. She looked at him. I want you to remove my rosary. Alert, Naruto began looking about at the passing crowd. Why? Are we in some sort of danger? No, I am about to take us back to the academy. If I have the rosary on, I will immediately revert back to the other Mocha. There are still some things I need to say and do with you first. All right. He removed the rosary and handed it to her. Very well, I am taking us back now. Without warning, she wrapped her arms around him and pulled him tight against her body. In the next instant, they seemed to be surrounded by a black fire. And the moment after that, they were in her bedroom. Whoa! What was that? That was vampiric teleportation. I can travel not only across space, but to other worlds as well. You know, you really should give a guy some warning first. He'd expected her to let go of him now that they were safely back in her apartment. But she continued to hold him tight. I love you. Her voice was calm as she leaned in. What? I said that I love you, Uzumaki Naruto. Her lips came down on his and her whole body slowly grinding against him. Her mouth and body were eager and he could feel his heart begin to race. He put his own hands tightly around her and tried to somehow create even more friction between them. When their lips separated, her eyes were staring down into his. I have never spoken those words before, not even to my father. You are the only one who has ever entered my heart. She gently touched his face. I love you and I will always love you. I love you too, Mocha-chan, and I always will. She nodded and took his hands, placing them on the buttons of her shirt. I take you as my lover. Please help me remove my clothes. His hands shaking and memories of the last time running through his head. He did just that. But unlike last time, once she was naked, she began helping him to undress as well. They then spent the rest of the night making love. Chapter 17, A Little Favor. It was the last day of the fall semester. While other students worried about their grades and about going home for the winter break, he had other responsibilities and concerns. He looked over to Kuyu. "I don't want to do this." Kuyu smiled at him nastily. "Please think of this as good training, Uzumaki-san." Naruto frowned. "This isn't the sort of training I had in mind. Besides, didn't you say I wouldn't have anything to do with the committee? That was before you asked for our help." "I didn't ask for it. You know who wants this investigation." Yet he did not deign to actually speak to me directly or make the request officially. "So far as I am concerned, this is being done on your behalf, Uzumaki-san. And if you wish for us to continue with this, I expect you to participate, not just watch." Naruto sent him a hard look. "I really hate you." That only produced a smile. "Hate me all you want, so long as you do as I say, Uzumaki-san." "Bastard." "Yeah, but what kind of bastard am I?" "Fine then." He held out his right hand. On the tip of index finger, a small fire came to life. The flame was a pure orange, which meant it was nice and hot. He turned to the only other person in the tiny underground cell. "Save us all a lot of trouble and just tell us what you know." Moroha looked at him with despair. He was naked and chained up to the cell wall. All over his chest, arms, and legs there were burn marks. "Please let me go. I've told you everything I know, I swear." "Oh, I believe you. But I'm afraid Kuyu doesn't. So, until you give us the name of your leader, we'll have to continue this." "But I don't know it," he cried out. "Our leaders always hid themselves. The highest one in the organization I knew was Midu." "Well, since he's dead, that doesn't do us or you much good now, does it? Please, I don't know anything, I swear. Please just show me mercy." "Mercy?" Naruto asked. "You're my enemy. You became my enemy the second you decided to attack me and Mocha. Where I come from, enemy prisoners have no rights." Besides, he pressed his finger into the man's shoulder. "I've seen how much mercy you rogue monsters show." As Moroha's skin began to burn, he howled. Naruto tried to think about other things, like how he'd wound up in this situation. 5 weeks ago. She stuck her tongue in his mouth. Her tongue pressed against his and seemed to be searching the inside of his mouth. He could feel one hand gripping his hair and the other one she raked across his chest, her fingernails digging into him. All the while she didn't stop for a second, her hips kept going back and forth, squeezing him, rubbing him in the most amazing way. After getting a nice taste, she pulled her mouth back and sat back up. He could feel her thighs squeezing him as her motion changed. Now instead she began to slamming her body up and down, forcing his hard dick deep into her wet tight pussy. And as she rode him, she looked down at him with a wickedly sinful smile on her face. Just seeing that look made him want to fuck her even more. He reached up with both hands to grab her big firm tits. He began rubbing them the way he knew teen Mocha liked. Though the adult Mocha's body was more mature and better developed, it seemed to have all the same sensitive spots. He saw her close her eyes and let out a small gasp. As he played with her tits, she continued to pound away at him. Her pussy was so wet and so tight, it was amazing. Despite the size of his dick, he could slide all the way into her with no problem. Her pussy grabbed on and didn't want to let go. This felt so good. Her pussy felt so good. Sex was so amazing. It was his first time and he couldn't believe what it was like. This feeling. I'm going to. Naruto grunted. Not yet, she began riding him even harder. Hold on just a bit more. I can't. Just a little more, she panted and rode his dick for all she was worth. He felt her pussy suddenly throb and constrict. That was it. I'm coming. He squeezed her tits as he let go and sent his cum deep into her soaking pussy. Ah-ha! Mocha cried out as a deep full orgasm made her body shake. She felt his hot cum pour into her. Feeling spent and totally satisfied, she lay down on top of him and began to eagerly kiss his mouth. She made sure his dick was still inside her even as his cum began to slowly leak out of her pussy. After kissing him, she rested her head on the pillow next to his. They were both coated in sweat and breathing hard. Was that 5 or 6? Naruto asked. I think I lost count. That was 5, Mocha answered firmly. I never suspected humans had this sort of stamina. She began to playfully run a finger over the scars on his cheeks. If I had, I think I'd have taken you the very first time we met. I don't think normal guys can go this much, he answered her wearily. It's nice to know that Baka Fox is good for something. You do know, she said pleasantly, that now that you are my lover, if you ever abandon me or do this with another woman, I will hunt you down and kill you. He looked at her worriedly. She was still smiling at him and gently touching his face. But he had no doubts that she was absolutely serious. Does the other Mocha count as another woman? No, she actually giggled. You're free to have your way with her as often as you like, and trust me, she will be very eager to let you. She gave him another kiss. Now shall we try for 6? I don't think I can. Oh really? He felt her mouth nibble at his neck. She moved her face down his chest, giving him little kisses and light touches as she went. When she got to his cock, he felt her tongue flicker out along the length of it. He then felt as her mouth completely swallowed both of his balls and gently sucked on them as her hands began to rub his cock. He quickly began getting hard again. As soon as she moved her mouth to begin sucking his dick, he let out a low groan. Damn, I never thought I'd be so glad to have demon stamina. Where have you two been? An upset Kurumu demanded. Naruto looked over at her. He and Mocha had been walking together arm in arm. The sun was setting and they had only just gotten out. Mocha had her head resting on his shoulder and her eyes closed. She looked up and smiled dreamily at the other girl. Hello Kurumu-chan, Mocha spoke in a satisfied voice. How are you this morning? Morning? It's almost night. What have you two been doing? Naruto blushed and looked away. No, nothing. Mocha simply giggled and put her head back down on his shoulder. Kurumu's jaw dropped. Somehow, she just knew. She pointed at the two of them accusingly. You two had sex. Naruto's blush deepened. They had indeed, after being up all night taking care of the adult Mocha, the teenage Mocha had insisted he give her equal time. Mocha let out a contented sigh and answered. 7 times. Bam! Ow! Mocha lifted her head. She'd just been hit in the face with a snowball. The three of them all looked in the general direction where the snowball had come from. Mizore stepped out from behind a tree and waved. Hi. 1 week later. The two of them were standing in the middle of the woods. It was early evening and it was pouring down rain. He could have been in the dojo working on his fighting skills. Or better yet, he could have been in Mocha's bed, enjoying another marathon session with his sweet girl. Instead, he was standing in the pouring rain with Kuyu. To say he did not want to be there would have been an understatement. Kuyu pointed at a log. Light it on fire. Are you kidding me? Naruto snapped. I can't make fire even under normal conditions. How do you expect me to it when it's pouring rain? As a reply, Kuyu held out both hands and fires began to burn in each palm. There was a slight hiss as raindrops struck the flames and evaporated, but the fires kept burning. For one with the power of a kitsune, it is easy. For one who has the power of the great Lord himself, making a bonfire even within a monsoon should be child's play. Just because I have the Kyuubi's power stuck inside me doesn't mean I can just use it whenever I want. That's the whole reason I asked for help to begin with. I'm done wasting time with this. He turned to leave. You're one lousy teacher. Kouyu snorted. Not even the best teacher could teach a pig how to fly. Naruto stopped and turned around. What was that? I have told you all that you should need to know. A disgusted Kouyu replied. You haven't told me anything. All you keep saying is, just do it. How the hell does that help when I don't know how to do it in the first place? A child would be able to understand it. Kouyu growled. The power is within you and you have free access to it. All you have to do is draw it out. He had a revolted look. If you cannot do that much, it can only be because of your own stupidity. What did you say? Naruto demanded and took a menacing step forward. I called you stupid. Are you deaf as well? He took a step forward as well. Naruto was about to shout something when the log suddenly burst into flame. They both stopped to stare at the burning log. Kouyu nodded to himself. Well, it seems my training method finally worked. He was suddenly his usual calm self again. Naruto glared at him. You didn't do anything. But I did, Uzumaki-san, he said coolly. I deliberately provoked you and made you angry. We kitsune are beings of passion and fire. We are at our strongest when our passions are their hottest. I thought you would have a better chance of drawing on the power if you were angry. Naruto frowned at him. Well, I guess it worked. Kouyu nodded. You have finally taken the first step in mastering the power inside you. 1 week later. Naruto struggled but finally collapsed face first into the mat. You're not done yet, Kenpachi said. You've only done 40, you owe me another 60 push-ups. He turned his head to glare at him. This would be a lot easier if you weren't standing on my back. Kenpachi smiled back down at him. This is your punishment for missing so many club sessions. He let loose a low chuckle. If you'd rather, we can just have an all-out sparring match instead. 60 more, you say? With a painful grunt, he got back to it. 1 week later. Naruto headed to their training session with a grim determination. He still did not like Kouyu much, but he was willing to admit he was starting to make some progress. He could start and maintain fires at will, even on his body. He was beginning to figure out how to tap into the Kyuubi's chakra. He didn't care much for the training sessions but was willing to admit they were useful. So, when he spotted Kouyu, he gave him a friendly wave. Hey Kouyu-sensei, I. Naruto was caught by surprise as Kouyu launched himself at him and landed a ferocious punch right in his stomach before he could react. With his greater strength, Kouyu was able to slam him into a tree. And hold him there. Ugh, he cried in pain. What the hell? Tell me, Uzumaki-san, Kouyu smiled into his face. How is that pretty girlfriend of yours? What? Despite his pain, he looked at Kouyu angrily. Kouyu was holding him around the collar with one hand and had one of his wrists in the other. Struggle though he could neither get away nor bring his hands together to form hand signs. What about her? She's very lovely, isn't she? I've always liked young girls with nice bodies like hers. It seems like a real waste for her to be with a human like you. A low growl escaped him. Don't even try. Mocha would never have anything to do with you. Maybe I won't give her a choice, Uzumaki-san. Maybe I'll tie you to this tree and pay her a little visit tonight. Maybe I'll just hold her down and make her do anything I want. No, you won't. Furious at the threat, the power surged through him. In an instant he was surrounded by a demonic aura as his body transformed. Satisfied, Kouyu let go and stepped back. I see my A fist surrounded by a cloak slammed into his face and sent him flying 20 feet through the air. Landing, Kuyu had no chance to even get on his feet before a claw made of demonic aura locked onto his throat and hauled him into the air. Feeling Naruto's killer intent and looking into those murderous red eyes, Kuyu realized he might have miscalculated. Naruto was in his one-tail form. Kuyu was a four-tail Yukai Kitsune, but that did not help him while he was in his human form. Don't ever threaten Mocha again, and don't ever touch her. Or I swear I'll kill you. With ease, Naruto slammed him into a tree. Kuyu fell to the ground. He looked up at a still furious Naruto and smiled. You do realize this was training, Uzumaki-san? You just managed to activate your demonic cloak, and all it took was a little threat to your girlfriend. Naruto fiercely stared down at him. His killer intent had not lessened. I know it was your sick idea of training. That's the only reason I don't kill you right now. But let's get something straight, you will never mention Mocha again. Such anger, such passion, that girl is quite a weak spot for you, isn't she? Just remember what I told you. Naruto left. Kuyu watched him go. He would have to begin taking more precautions when dealing with Naruto. But it was interesting to know his weakness. 1 week later. Naruto was just leaving his dorm when 4 men in black trench coats surrounded him. Come with us, Uzumaki. Naruto. 4 swords came out and were leveled at his throat. What are you doing? Seeing him threaten, Mocha came forward. No need for concern, one of them said. He is not in any danger. Just who are you? Naruto demanded. We are the elite bodyguard. Uzumaki. Naruto, you will come with us, you are summoned to meet the headmaster. Meeting in the headmaster's office, in his private home, Naruto was a bit nervous. He had no idea why he was here. The man himself was not what Naruto had expected. The man was dressed in a white robe that reminded Naruto of something a priest of monk might wear. There was also the fact he had weird glowing eyes like the bus drivers. I am very pleased to have this opportunity to finally meet you. The man sounded friendly enough. I hope my guards were not too rough in bringing you here. They tend to be a bit over-enthusiastic at times. It's fine, he muttered. Could you please tell me why I'm here? Of course, I brought you here so I could help you with your problem. Naruto grunted. Which problem? I have a few. I am referring to that seal on your chest that you are so desperate to get rid of. The one Jiraiya placed on you. Naruto stared at him. How do you know about that? The only people who were supposed to know were me, Jiraiya, and the Hokage. The headmaster smiled serenely. Oh, I have my ways. I know a great many things that happen here. For instance, I sensed when you were first able to use the Kyuubi's demonic aura. I sent a report to your Hokage and arranged for Jiraiya to be brought here to meet with you. So, you were the one. You informed the Hokage. Why? The headmaster shrugged. Simple courtesy. The Hokage asked me to keep an eye on you and inform him if you access the Kyuubi's power. I promised I would. A man should always keep his promises, don't you think? Yeah, Naruto answered dryly. So, you arranged for Jiraiya to come here knowing what he was going to do to me? No, I was not told of his purpose. I learned of it on my own. Please understand, I do not owe your Hokage any special loyalty. While he did enroll you at this academy, I like to think my first loyalty is to my students. Does this mean you can actually help me? Naruto tried not to get his hopes up. Certainly, I am a seal master of some skill. I could not undo the seal, however, I would be able to render it inert and harmless. That would be great. However, the headmaster grinned. Doing so would certainly displease your Hokage and possibly cause future difficulties. Therefore, before I help you, I would ask for a little favor in return. Why am I not surprised? What sort of favor? Naruto asked warily. What do you know of Anti-Thesis? Never heard of it. What is it? It is an organization made up of outcast Ayashi who have a hatred against all purebred monsters. They have been a nuisance up to now, but seem to be growing bolder. You have already faced them as Saizu, Midu, and their allies were all members. They seem to be moving towards some sort of ultimate goal. I even believe that they may have a member on the Academy School Committee. I need to know who their leaders are and what they are up to. And you want me to take care of this for you? That's right, and since you happen to be a member of the Student Police Committee, you may also enlist their aid as well. But can't you just order them to help? I mean, you're the headmaster. I am afraid the committee and I have had some disagreements on certain matters. Oh, I could task them with this. Koyu would certainly not refuse my request. However, he might be a bit less than enthusiastic in pursuing the matter. Whereas you have excellent motivation. So once again I just get used. Hardly that, no one is being used. Think of this as a mere exchange of favors. Favors. You give me something I want and in return I will give you something that you want. Now doesn't that seem fair? What it seems like is a hell of a lot of trouble. But if it takes care of the seal on my chest, I don't have much of a choice. Yeah, I guess it's fair. Alright, I'll handle it for you. 3 days later. He and Koyu descended a small stairwell into the lower levels of the committee's headquarters. We were only able to track down one of your attackers, Uzumaki-san. Koyu sounded slightly annoyed. The scum seemed to have scattered. This one was stupid enough to actually stay at the academy. Exiting the stairwell was a long dimly lit corridor lined with locked cells. As they walked down the corridor, Naruto noticed that about a dozen of the cells were occupied by students. A couple cried out pleading their innocence, the rest hid in the shadows of their cells as he and Koyu walked past. Who are these people? Naruto asked. They are criminals we are investigating. We hold them here for a while to punish them for their crimes. Most of them will be released after a while. Most of them? What about the rest? Koyu looked over at him. The ones that aren't released are dealt with. And just how exactly do you deal with them? Koyu smiled. I mean just what you think I mean. We are after all the enforcers of the rules and guardians of the peace here. Certain sacrifices are necessary. Naruto had no qualms about killing an enemy. In that respect he was no different than almost all other ninja. He also understood that interrogation and torture were a reality of both the ninja and monster worlds. But he had doubts about killing helpless prisoners. The prisoner's name is Moroha. Koyu pulled out a large iron key as they came to the very last cell at the far end of the corridor. With a hollow thunk, the iron door swung open. Naruto immediately recognized the prisoner as one that had helped Saizu attack him that second time. He was in chains and stripped naked on the far wall, otherwise he seemed alright. His spirit had certainly not been broken. Let me out of here, you bastards. You have no right to do this. We have every right, you disgusting half-breed. We are the Student Police Committee. You're nothing but a bunch of elitist bastards who get off on making everyone else afraid of you. I would enjoy teaching you some respect, you piece of trash. But I will instead leave that to my student. Uzumaki-san, I leave the interrogation to you. What? I thought I was just going to watch. Koyu shook his head. Think of this as valuable training. You can use your fire abilities against a live opponent. You can see what you can do and also work on fine-tuning your control. Of course, should you make a mistake, he looked at Moroha meaningfully. No one will care. I'll fight someone if I have to, but I'm not going to torture anyone. I see, Koyu said. I thought the information was vital, but perhaps I was wrong. If you do not wish him to be tortured, then he will not be. But if you do not interrogate him, no one else will. He may hold the information you need. Will you allow it to remain hidden there, just out of reach? Or will you do what is necessary even if you find it distasteful? Naruto looked at Moroha and then looked back at Kuyu. You really are a bastard, you know. He held out his right palm and filled it with fire. But I guess I'm one too. He muttered. Not so much, Kuyu counseled. You don't want to kill him, you want to be able to keep this up for days or weeks if you need to. Try just one finger. Naruto concentrated and caused most of the fire to disappear. There was only fire on the tip of his index finger. As he approached the prisoner, he saw the way all his attention was focused on that small bit of flame. It would be best if you just told me what I need to know now. Fuck you, Moroha said defiantly. Naruto nodded. I am sorry about this, I know what it's like to burn. But you're my enemy and I need that information. He pressed his finger into the man's chest and listened as the skin and muscle began to cook and the smell of meat filled the cell. Moharo managed to bite down on his screams. Naruto admired that, but he also knew it was pointless. He understood what it felt like to burn. He was sure Moroha would be screaming very soon. The present. I think that's enough for today, Kuyu said. Thus, bringing the interrogation session to an end. Naruto nodded and put the fire out. You did very well, Kuyu commented. You're starting to get quite good at this. He suspected that was true, but it was not a compliment he wanted. If I'm done, I'll be going. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time, Uzumaki-san. Naruto grunted a reply as he performed the shunshin and disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. After a hot shower and change of clothes, he body flickered to his girlfriend's apartment. The smell of burnt food told him immediately she had tried to make ramen again. Honestly, how do you burn ramen? It's the easiest thing in the world to make. But he really didn't mind. He was almost starting to find the smell of burnt ramen comforting. He associated it with Mocha. After a quick meal, they'd gone over to her couch for a nice relaxed make-out session before taking things to the bedroom. Are you sure you don't want to go anywhere for winter break, Naruto-kun? Once you remove my rosary, I can take us anywhere you want. He thought about it. Well, maybe we can do something for the last week of vacation. But right now, I have to keep working on this investigation. Do you mind, Mocha-chan? If you really want to go somewhere. Will you spend every night with me in my bed? Definitely. Then I don't mind. Laughing, he got up from the couch and picked her up bridal style. Have I mentioned that I love you? Not in the last 10 minutes. Feeling really happy, he carried into the bedroom. He loved her and he wanted a life with her where they could both really be free and safe. To make that future happen, he was ready to do anything. Chapter 18, A Vacation. Spitfire Technique. Out of his mouth came a small stream of concentrated fire. It struck a tree about 20 yards away, dead center. The flames caught and it was quickly burning. He ran through some more hand signs. Great Gale Technique. A powerful wind buffeted the tree and the surrounding area, blowing out the flames. As soon as that happened, he ended the jutsu. That was great, Naruto-kun. Mocha said. It was late morning. With classes out, they had been spending most of the morning's training and working out together. She glanced at his face and was surprised to see he wasn't smiling. Is something wrong? Not really, he sighed. It's just that I can't rally cut loose here. Since I've started using the Kyuubi's power to make fire, I found fire jutsu come as naturally to me and wind ones. I've learned a bunch of really powerful wind and fire-based attacks. I'd love to really see what I could do with them, but I don't dare. Are you worried you'll destroy the whole forest? She joked. Yes, he answered completely seriously. And I don't think the people at the academy would appreciate it. The last thing I need right now is to get expelled. He found himself recalling the famous training grounds of his old village. Their ninja could use their full strength without concern. The village had a corps of maintenance ninja who specialized in repairing the damage. You could flatten a training ground and within a few days it would be restored. But there was nothing like that here. Well, if you really want I can take you somewhere that you could do that. He nodded at her. I've actually been thinking about that. He glanced at his watch. I have to go meet Koyu now. I'll come by for dinner at the usual time. She smiled. I'll make some more ramen for you. Heh, great, I should never have told her ramen was my favorite food. I'll see you later, Mocha-chan. He disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. I am afraid I have come to the conclusion that the prisoner has no more information to give us. Koyu said. It really took you this long to figure that out? Koyu sent him an annoyed glance. That being the case, I want you to deal with him. Deal with him? Kill him, is that plain enough? I'm not going to do it. Please just let me go, Moroha pleaded feebly. I promise I won't tell anyone anything. They both ignored him. Think of it as training. You need to be able to do terrible things whenever necessary. Naruto gave the kitsune a cold look. Don't assume I'll have any trouble with that when the time comes. But he's not the one I hate. I'm not going to kill a prisoner just because you want me to. Koyu shook his head disappointed. You're weak, Uzumaki-san. And killing a helpless prisoner will somehow make me strong? Doing what must be done without hesitation will make you strong. Obviously you and I have different ideas about what's necessary. Tell me something, since this has turned out to be a dead end, where does the investigation stand? Koyu frowned at him. At the moment we have no leads, there is no one for us to investigate. When school begins again, we will try and find some more of these scum. Alright, in that case I think I'll take a vacation for the rest of winter break. I'll see you again when the semester starts. What about your training? Koyu demanded. Don't worry, I'll make sure to jab myself with a stick every day. How is it? Mocha asked. Horrible. Terrible. Barely edible. He chewed what was in his mouth and swallowed it. Great. I really love the way you make ramen. I'm so glad you like it, Naruto-kun, Mocha said. To be honest, I don't care for it myself, I guess ramen must be an acquired taste. So, I don't think I'll eat it anymore, but I'll be happy to make it just for you anytime you want. Great, inside he was weeping. Note to self, lying to Mocha only leads to bad things. Listen Mocha-chan, we have 10 days until classes start. I was wondering if we could go and do something together. Sure, Naruto-kun. What did you have in mind? Well, there's something I've wanted to do for a really long time now. As she listened, Naruto saw the look of excitement on her face fade away. If this is something you don't want to do, Mocha-chan, we don't have to. We can do something else, so long as we're together I'll be happy. It's not that, Naruto-kun, she sighed. If this is what you want to do, it's fine. It's just that it would probably best if my other side was with you. That would probably be safest. He agreed. She let out another heartfelt sigh. It's fair, I suppose. She loves you too. I just would have liked it if I could have been the one you spent your vacation with. It was one of the many odd aspects of being with someone with two personalities. Even though he was wanting to spend time with her, because he would be with the adult Mocha, it almost felt as if her were abandoning her. He reached across the table and took a hold of her hand. I'll tell you what, Mocha-chan, next break you can choose where we go. She smiled a bit, that seemed to satisfy her. All right. The following day 2 strangers entered the town of Jibujiki. Jibujiki was a small town in the middle of a hot empty plain on the western fringes of Earth Country. The permanent population was perhaps 5,000, no more than that. The buildings were all simple stone structures. Many of them looked to be in need of repair. There was no outer wall or gate, so the two of them simply walked into town. All along the streets there were bars and gambling dens. Most of the men they spotted were armed and looking them over. They were a mix of unemployed samurai, mercenaries, bandits, and a handful of rogue ninja. As they walked along a dirt street, every eye turned to them. Naruto knew they were not looking at him. He was dressed in all black with a mask and hood completely covering his face and head except for his eyes. He had weapons and ninja gear openly displayed. He did not have a hitayite though. His choice of dress screamed ninja, but given the surroundings he did not really stand out. They were staring because of Mocha. With her long flowing silver hair, slitted red eyes, and fangs, she could not help but draw attention. Her choice of dress, a tight-fitting white blouse, red mini skirt, and heels only made her even more eye-catching. It was hardly surprising when a group of 6 heavily armed men started approaching them. Every last one of them had a sword belted on and moved with the swagger of men used to getting what they wanted. Seeing them, Mocha grinned slightly. "Why not leave these fools to me while you take care of what we came here for?" He glanced over at her. "You sure?" "Quite sure." He could tell none of them could mold chakra. They were ordinary samurai or bandits. He felt a little sorry for them. "Fine, I'll meet you back here when I'm done." He continued on his way as she veered off towards the approaching men. There was only one 2-story building in the entire town, and it was located near the center of it. Over the doorway was a weather-beaten sign that read, "Freebooters Guild." He walked in. He was rather surprised to find what looked like just another large bar. There were armed men sitting at various tables drinking and playing cards. It looked nothing like what he had expected. Despite the sign out front, he wondered if he had somehow come to the wrong place. "Can I help you?" Naruto turned around to see a short balding man with glasses. "I'm not sure, I came here to get a mission." The man nodded. "You've come to the right place then. My name is Yu and I am the executive secretary of the Freebooters Guild." "You are?" He couldn't keep the disappointment out of his voice. When he'd first heard of this place, he'd imagined it to be filled with desperate and powerful missing neens. To find someone who looked like a shopkeeper in the middle of a bar, it wasn't what he'd had in mind. The man seemed to understand and just nodded. "I don't take any of the missions myself, of course. I simply help to run the guild. Our rules are very simple. You first need to join the guild. There is a 1,000 ryu fee and you must fill out a form. The membership is good for 1 year. Then you can pick any mission that's on the board." He nodded to the far wall. The wall was covered with perhaps 100 slips of paper. "We get all sorts of requests at all sorts of pay rates. Now obviously the rates are much lower than what a ninja village would expect. The whole reason we exist after all is to provide an option for those who can't afford to hire regular ninja. Bloody deeds done dirt cheap. That's our motto." "I see," Naruto replied. "And these are real ninja missions?" "They're real missions with real clients." Yu replied. "They aren't usually performed by ninja though. As of right now we have 10 ninja in the guild. Most of our members are samurai." Yu eyed him carefully. "Are you a ninja?" "Yeah." "Well, that's fine then, we won't ask about your circumstances or what village you are originally from. And just so you know, whatever you put down on the application is just for our records. No one is going to be worried about accuracy. So do you want to join?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, I do." He pulled out Gamakan. His frog wallet was stuffed almost to overflowing with Ryu notes. Just about the only good thing he would say about his village was that the monthly stipend he received was pretty generous. Since he wasn't very materialistic, he had saved up an awful lot. He paid the fee and quickly filled out the form. Yu took it from him and looked it over. "Well, Minato, it's good to have you aboard. Pick out whatever mission you want from the board and then bring it up to me so I can assign it to you officially. Beneath the mask, Naruto was smiling. He thought it only right that he got to use his father's name for once. Naruto was carefully looking over the missions that had been tacked up in the wall. Most of them were about what he had expected. Requests for bodyguards, retrieval missions, assassinations, and a few requests for kidnappings. He took his time looking them over. This was a one-time thing and he wanted to choose carefully. That was when he noted a small yellowed card a bit lower than the others. He looked at that one. When he read the request, he smiled. Perfect. He snatched it off the wall and brought it back to you. When you read the card, he looked at Naruto. Are you sure this is the one you want? This mission has been sitting up there for at least 5 years. The only reason it was even still up there was because it didn't seem worth the effort of throwing out. You're certain this is the mission you want? It's exactly what I want. You shrugged and wrote something down on a clipboard. It's yours then, good luck, you'll need it. Heading down the same street he'd come up, he soon spotted 6 bloodied and beaten men lying in the dirt. Mocha was standing there looking bored. Surprisingly, there was no one else in sight. All the men that had been hanging out of the bars looking her over had strangely disappeared. You have fun? He asked her. She looked contemptuous. Bah, they were too weak to even provide a decent workout. Have you gotten what we came here for? I sure did. He handed her the card. She read it with a frown. I do not understand. We came here because you said you wanted to go on an actual ninja mission. Was this the only one available? No, he took the card back from her. They had all sorts of missions, including some high-paying requests for assassinations. But instead, you took a request to retrieve a locket? A request that is only paying 2,000 ryu. Unless I am completely mistaken, that is a very small amount of money, isn't it? It's not much, Naruto agreed. The two of them were already on the way out of town. But this isn't about the money. Is it about the challenge then? Mocha asked. Because if it is, I would think a mission going against other ninja would be more challenging. It's not really about that either, though I will enjoy getting to use my jutsus at full power for a change. Then if it is not about the money or the challenge, what is it about? From beneath his mask, he smiled at her. It's a chance to do what I always wanted to. I do not understand you at all. Mocha admitted. Still, she reached out and put her arm through his as they left Jibujiki. Shugawa was a bandit leader with 100 men under him. He made a good living traveling the roadways along the far edges of Earth, Wind, and other smaller countries. He made a point of never staying in one location for too long and regularly crossing borders. By doing this, he avoided being seen as too big a problem for any particular country. So long as he and his men remained just nuisances, no one was going to pay to send ninja after them. Given the size of his band, local militias and police forces were no threat at all. He'd been following this simple strategy for 7 years and had profited from it. He had no idea his brilliant career was about to come to a bloody end. The first inkling he got was when a couple of his sentries let out some shouts that were quickly cut off. He and all his men pulled out their weapons and readied themselves within their camp. They were rather surprised to see 2 individuals come tramping out of the woods straight towards them, making no effort to hide themselves. One of them definitely looked like a ninja, the other was a woman with red eyes who seemed to radiate some sort of lethal power. He naturally eyed the surrounding woods, wondering if these 2 were really alone. Alone. What is it you want? Shugawa called out. The ninja answered him. A locket, it's silver and made in a heart shape with the picture of a baby boy inside. You and your men stole it from its rightful owner 6 years ago in a little village called Aikido. Shugawa gaped at him. Are you serious? Do you think I keep track of every trinket I've ever taken? It's not a trinket to the woman who owned it. Naruto spoke coldly. The sound of his voice and the feel of his mounting killer intent made a few of the bandits begin to look at each other nervously. To her it's the only picture she has of a child she lost long ago. To her it is a treasure beyond all price. I am going to find that locket and deliver it to her. The only question is whether or not I kill all of you first. Shugawa eyed them both carefully. Even if you are both ninja, I have over 100 well-armed men. The odds would be stacked against you. You mistake me, fool, Moka said proudly. I am a vampire. And I am no ordinary ninja, I have a demon inside me. Shugawa grinned. What kind of fool do you take me for? The woman may well have some sort of weird bloodline, but there's no such thing as vampires. And demons are nothing but stories. I take it you're ignorant about the Kyuubi and the other Biju? What? Never mind, Naruto began flipping through hand signs. It would be a waste to explain to someone I'm about to kill anyway. Great Gale technique. Hurricane force winds struck the men in front of him and scattered them about like leaves in a storm. He quickly cast his second jutsu. Fire style, Immortal Phoenix technique. Above his head a large bird made of solid flame was born. It flew swiftly straight at the targets he picked. Just one touch of a wing or claw was enough to light the men up like torches. Each man that was set on fire screamed like hell. Hell, but only for a little while. Even while he was the one doing it to them, he felt a little sympathy. He understood what they felt as they died. Moka had raced straight in eager to fight. As the bandits staggered to their feet after being blown down, they found themselves facing her. They were no match. Against the speed and power of a vampire you are nothing. She slammed her fist into another of them and sent him down with a broken jaw. Know your place. Naruto could have created a few hundred shadow clones or unleashed the Kyuubi's power and ended things quickly. But that wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to fight like a ninja would. As soon as he ended his fire jutsu he took out some kunai and raced into the ruined camp. As the bandits tried to come at him, he threw his kunai at them. Surrounding each one with wind-based chakra, they went into and through their bodies. He saw their blood gush out of their ruined chests as they fell fatally wounded or dead. The sight of the blood was different from killing with fire. He felt no sympathy. What he felt instead was pleasure. These men were nothing but prey to him, nothing but plump rabbits born for slaughter. Too quick most of them were gone, the few remaining were running from him in terror. The thought of letting them go never even crossed his mind. Please no. The great and feared Shugawa begged. Naruto slammed his kunai into the side of his throat. A wild smile was hidden beneath his mask as he watched the blood splurt onto his face and clothing. Seeing the fear in the man's eyes as he died gave Naruto nothing but pleasure. Any survivors? Naruto asked cheerfully. Only the dozen or so I fought. Moka said. I noticed you did not leave any. He nodded. Well, I'll go ahead and take care of them. You are going to kill them? She sounded surprised. That's right, they're too dangerous to allow to live. If I let them go they'll talk about fighting a ninja and a vampire. If that gets out it could be traced back to us, I can't risk it. I see. Moka said. She made no further comment as Naruto went about cutting throats. It took most of the day and the help of 100 shadow clones to go through the treasure wagons. But finally, one of his clones came up with a silver locket that matched the description perfectly. We're done, we can go now. He pocketed the locket and dismissed the clones. Along with the locket he had filled a sack with stacks of Ryu notes as well as some precious stones. Moka had a fondness for gold and helped herself to a vast number of gold bracelets and other pieces. Seeing him with his sack Moka grinned. I thought this was not about the money? It isn't, Naruto replied. But I don't believe in looking a gift horse in the mouth. Now we go to Akido and return the locket to its rightful owner. Akito was a small mountainside village located in a sparsely populated region of Earth Country. The people there received few outsiders, and the sudden appearance of Naruto and Mocha caused quite a stir. Naruto quickly explained why they were there, and the residents told them where he could find the locket's owner. He stood before a tombstone with the same name as on the yellowed card. The woman who had put in the request to have her precious locket returned to her had died over a year ago. He took out the locket and simply let it slip through his fingers. So, it was useless, he said bitterly. It was useless from the start. Mocha moved to stand beside him. I do not understand, she spoke quietly. Naruto, why does the death of a woman you never even met bother you? He stared down at the plain tombstone. I was trying to be a hero. You wanted to be a hero? Mocha repeated. Is that what all of this was about? He kept his eyes down. He felt too ashamed and stupid to look her in the eye. When I was just a little kid, I was like everyone else and thought ninja were the coolest. They were seen as the brave protectors of the village. They were looked up to and admired. They were heroes. I used to imagine becoming a ninja and going on heroic missions to help people who needed it. Of course, since then I've gotten some bitter lessons in the reality of ninja life. He paused to take a deep breath. I don't know what I'm going to become, but it certainly isn't a hero. I have so much hate and rage inside me. I'm overflowing with hate. And I'm starting to become someone very cruel. The other day, when I killed those men, I knew they had no chance against me. I knew it and it excited me. I can slaughter them and they can't even touch me, I thought. I tortured someone and even though I complained about it I still did it willingly. I'm trying to gain the Kyuubi's power, and the more I do the more I can feel myself changing. He looked up at her now. There has always been darkness inside of me, Mocha-chan, places in my heart that I tried not to look at. But ever since I began using the Kyuubi's power, the darkness in me has been getting stronger. And what worries me the most? It doesn't bother me anymore to look into the dark. I'm getting used to it, and I'm starting to wonder what I'll become. I see, Mocha said calmly. So, before I changed too much I wanted to see, just once, what it was like to be a hero. I wanted to help someone just because they needed it. I don't know, I guess I thought if I could just see what it felt like it might help. But I should have known it wouldn't work. I'm not meant to be a hero, I suppose. Mocha let out a depressed sigh. You are a fool, Uzumaki Naruto. He lowered his head again, feeling defeated. I know. She turned to him and carefully pulled down his mask so she could see his face. Not because you wish to be a hero, but because you do not realize that you already are one. What do you mean? The very first day that you met my other self you were ready to risk your life to protect her, even though you had only just met. You went out of your way to befriend and accept Yukari, even though her actions had only caused you grief. When the other Mocha was captured, you deliberately walked into a trap to rescue her. And in order to save my life you chose to turn to that very darkness that you so fear. Her hand soothingly touched his cheek. You do not need to go on a mission to be a hero, you already are one. He looked at her. For you and the precious people I care about I would do anything. But there's no denying there's darkness in me. She nodded. Do not deny it, accept it and make it a part of you. That is your only choice, otherwise, if you try and deny it, it really may swallow you whole. I have darkness within me as well. I can hate and be cruel when I must. For instance, I would gladly kill anyone who threatens you or who is your enemy. Even the gentle Mocha can hate when there is cause. Do the things you must to protect those you love. He slowly nodded. The way she said it actually gave him some hope. Thank you, Mocha-chan. Listen, we have 5 days of vacation still left. Do you want to head back to the academy? The adult Mocha smiled. I have a better idea. 5 days later. Naruto had the teen Mocha wrapped tight in his arms. It was cold and windy, but they didn't mind. They were standing back to front on top of the highest observation level of the Eiffel Tower looking down at Paris at night. I can see why they call it the City of Light, Naruto said. She leaned back against him and let out a contented sigh. I can't believe we have to go back tonight. Well, I still can't believe that the other Mocha suggested I spend the rest of our break with you. The younger Mocha looked up at him and smiled. We are the same person, Naruto-kun. She feels my joy just as I feel hers. She also thought it was best if you were with me for a while. Sometimes I need a hard hand and sometimes I need a gentle one? Something like that. She twisted about in his arms so that she was facing him rather than the skyline. You are a good man, Naruto-kun, and I love you very much. Never doubt that even if you do things you are not proud of, I will still love you. He kissed her. Thank you, Mocha-chan. As long as I have your love, I think I can face anything. Chapter 19, That Kind of Guy. The first day of the spring semester. Naruto exited the boys' dorm as part of a steady stream of male students. Looking out, there was a small crowd of boys gathered. Without seeing her, he already knew Mocha was in the middle of them. Since becoming an official couple, he'd hoped the other boys would back off and be more respectful of Mocha's choice. No such luck. The majority of them went right on worshipping her from afar. His only consolation was in knowing none of them were any threat to him and the love he shared with her. After all, he'd woken up this morning in her bed. They'd already spent an hour together working out and training. At some point today she would tell him how good he smelled and drink his blood. And tonight, after class, after martial arts club, after dinner and some studying, he would be in her bed again making love to her. He smiled. No, these boys who kept telling her how much they loved her, they were no threat at all. Naruto-kun. The sudden shout brought him out of his thoughts just in time to see two gigantic hills coming straight at him. His face was shoved into a yellow sweater and he found himself being smothered. I've missed you, darling. Yahoo, I am so happy to see you again. Did you miss me? He managed to pull out of Kurumu's grasp and breathe again. Ah, it's really good to see you again, Kurumu-chan. Naruto-kun. Having just shaken Kurumu loose, he found an 11-year-old glumped onto his chest. I've missed you. He smiled at her as he carefully loosened her grip. Hey Yukari-chan, it's good to see you again. How are your parents? They're both fine, Yukari said. I wish I could spend more time with them. Hello Kurumu-chan, Yukari-chan, it's so good you both. Mocha put both arms around Naruto's and stood very close to him. She and Kurumu seemed to be having an impromptu staring match. Oh Naruto-kun, Kurumu chirped cheerfully. I made you a little something I hope you'll enjoy. Cookies? He asked eagerly. As much as he loved Mocha, there was no denying who had the better cooking skills. Oh, you'll like this much better. She took out what looked like a photo album and gave it to him. I made this for you over the break. Well, that's nice. I appreciate. He opened it and took a look at the first page. Whoa! Mocha also got a good look. Nanny! She immediately snatched the book out of his hands and slammed it shut. What is this? She shouted at Kurumu. What? Kurumu said innocently. They're just some artistic pictures of me I thought Naruto-kun might enjoy. Those pictures are of you in leather bra and panties holding a whip. Kurumu grinned. Like I said, artistic. You should see the ones of me with my maid's outfit. Mocha shoved the book back at her. Naruto-kun does not want to look at any of your pictures. Oh really? I haven't heard Naruto say anything. She smiled at him demurely. Demurely. What do you think, darling? Mocha turned to look at him as well. He could see the vein throbbing in her forehead. Yes, Naruto-kun, what do you think? Naruto had a sudden image of adult Mocha glaring at him and a shiver ran through his spine. While I really appreciate the thought, I don't think that would be an appropriate gift. So I'm afraid I can't accept. Mocha happily grabbed onto his arm and stuck her tongue out at her blue-haired rival. Naruto sighed. It was the start of a new day and new semester. Completely unobserved through all of this was a purple-haired girl standing behind a nearby tree. Mizore watched the scene play out and then watched as the four of them headed towards the academy. She began to follow them, staying out of sight the whole way. A part of her realized just how pathetic she was being to get so hung up on a guy just because he had been nice to her a couple times. Even if he was really cute, even if he was kind, even if he did give her a warm feeling whenever he looked at her, it was pointless. He had a girlfriend. And not just any girlfriend, he was dating the hottest girl in their class. And if that wasn't bad enough, the second hottest girl was also interested in him. She knew she had nothing to offer him that could even begin to compete against them. The sensible part of her told her to just give it up and go back to being alone. But most of her was very happy just to be near him. Class, Nikanome-sensei called them to order. There is someone I would like you to meet. He is the president of the newspaper club, of which I am the faculty advisor. The door to the class opened and in strolled a tall good-looking guy with thick dark hair. In his hands he had a bouquet of red roses. With the exceptions of Mocha, Kurumu and Mizore, all the girls in class let out a warm greeting and began to smile at the newcomer. Class, this is Moriaka Jin, Nikanome announced. The boy turned and nodded to the teacher. Thank you for that warm greeting, sensei. He turned back to the class with a dazzling smile. I hope all of you enjoy reading the school paper, and I hope I can count on you to get a copy each and every Monday. However, I'm actually here on business. He seemed to glide across the floor to the seat next to Naruto's. These are for you, lovely lady. Mocha was very surprised to have the bouquet placed in front of her. Oh. Why, thank you. She took the flowers. They're lovely. Naruto sent the man a flat look and had to keep himself from growling. Standing at a distance and calling out affections was one thing. Actually, giving someone's girlfriend flowers was something else entirely. They are almost as lovely as you are. You know you have become quite the celebrity here on campus Akashiya Mocha. Our readers are very interested in you and I wonder if you wouldn't mind giving me an interview today during lunch? Well, actually I usually have lunch with my friends. He gave her a charming smile. I'm sure they wouldn't mind you missing just one lunch. It would mean a great deal to me and to the newspaper club. Nikanome-sensei put in pleadingly. Well, I suppose one lunch wouldn't be too big a deal. She looked over at Naruto. You don't mind, do you, Naruto-kun? Hell yes, I mind. With sensei and the whole class looking at him, he plastered on a fake smile. Of course not. Wonderful. Jin smoothly took one of her hands and planted a small kiss on it before she could object. I look forward to it. Please just come down to the newspaper room at the start of lunch. Well, this is a rare pleasure. Kurumu said brightly. I actually get to sit next to you during lunchtime. Don't get used to it, Yukari chided. Mocha-chan will be back in her usual spot tomorrow. Maybe, maybe not, we'll see. Naruto looked up from his barely touched food. What do you mean? Kurumu smiled at him. Oh, nothing, it's just that Jin is definitely that kind of guy. What kind? Yukari asked. A player, she said. He's the kind of guy who knows just what to tell a girl to get into her heart, or at least into her pants. From what I hear, he's very smooth. And it's pretty obvious that he has his sights set on Mocha. It doesn't matter how smooth he is. Naruto sounded annoyed. Mocha-chan would never be interested in a guy like that. Oh, I don't know, Kurumu said playfully. He's pretty good looking and you shouldn't underestimate the effect of a good looking guy paying a girl a lot of attention. Like I said, he knows what a girl likes to hear, and Mocha is kind of innocent. Mocha and I love each other. he said with complete certainty. Hey, it wouldn't be the first time a girl with a boyfriend got seduced. Seduced? Naruto tried to laugh it off. No way would that ever happen. You're probably right, Kurumu grinned. Then again, you're the first boyfriend she's ever had, right? So she doesn't really have a lot of experience dealing with characters like him. That Jin is a real wolf, and poor little Mocha is just a babe in the woods. Who knows what could happen? She leaned against him and made sure to press her boobs against his arm. But don't worry, darling, if anything happens, I'll be there to comfort you. Hey you! A girl's voice called out. The three of them all turned to look at the source of the voice. Mizor's head was popping up over some nearby shrubs. Stop teasing, Naruto, I think he's taking you seriously. Kurumu frowned at the girl that had interrupted her. He should take me seriously. I know the type, and that Jin will definitely try and put some moves on Mocha. It doesn't matter, Mizor said calmly. No girl who was lucky enough to be with someone like Naruto would ever be interested in anyone else. She looked away. I know I wouldn't. She mumbled too quietly for them to hear. Mizor-chan, Naruto said. What are you doing over there? Having lunch. He shook his head. Why don't you come sit with us? No thanks, I'm fine right here. She ducked back down and disappeared from sight. Even though he knew Kurumu had just been teasing him, he was still a little relieved when he spotted her on the way to 6th period class. It was more than 2 hours after the end of class when the two of them finally left the academy. Being a gentleman, Jin had of course insisted on walking Mocha back to her dorm. As they walked, he kept her engaged and smiling with short stories about his many odd adventures. As they went, he carefully put a comforting hand on her shoulder. Nothing too blatant, nothing overt, he knew that if he wanted her, the slow and gentle seduction was what was called for. And he wanted her very badly. From an academy rooftop, a figure watched them go. Watched as Jin placed his hand on her. Watched as she smiled and walked close to him. Watched as Jin tried to steal his girlfriend's affection. He felt the urge to just unleash it. To let all that dark power come out and literally tear the son of a bitch apart. He didn't. I won't, he muttered to himself. He could feel a murderous rage filling him, but he held himself in check. He controlled his anger. For now. Chapter 20, just for tonight. As they neared the girls' dorm, Jin decided to run his gambit. You know, Mocha-chan, you really are quite an amazing girl. I mean, aside from your obvious beauty, you're also very intelligent and have a very interesting viewpoint on things. Mocha smiled and blushed at his compliment. Arigato, Jin-senpai. He suddenly stopped and took a hold of both of her hands. Mocha-chan, he looked down into her innocent green eyes with sudden soul-searing passion. Please, I beg of you, join the newspaper club. I need someone with your energy and quick wit. I know you would be a huge asset to our club and would have a lot of fun as well. Please, Mocha-chan. Join the newspaper club so that we can work together side by side like true friends should. Nani? His sudden request caught her completely and totally by surprise. But, I'm already in the martial arts club. That is not a problem, students can be in multiple clubs. I don't think Kenpachi-senpai would allow it. He's very strict on attendance and I have already missed a number of sessions. He would definitely not be alright with me splitting time between two clubs. I see, Jin said sadly. Do you really enjoy the martial arts club then? I would never try and take you away from something that brought you joy. Well, she had memories of running multiple laps around the school and of constantly being thrown to the mat by Kenpachi. I don't really enjoy it, but I get to spend time with Naruto-kun while I'm there. Really? Is that the reason you joined? To spend time with him? But from what you tell me, you have 2 classes with him as well as homeroom. You also work out in the mornings with him. You take vacations with him. You even study with him at night. Note, Mocha has not mentioned anything about her sex life or where Naruto normally spends his nights. It seems you spend a great deal of time with him. Would not being in the same club really be so bad? She hesitated. Well, when you put it like that maybe, but... He gave her a reassuring smile and squeezed her hands a bit. Come on, I'm sure that if Naruto is as thoughtful and caring as you say, he'd want you in a club you'd enjoy. Doesn't interviewing people and writing reports sound more interesting than doing exercise? It does sound intriguing, she admitted. Then you'll do it? He looked at her with hopeful eyes. She thought about it. It really did sound like it might be fun. She slowly nodded. Yes, I'll do it. She entered her apartment and kicked off her shoes. Naruto-kun? Are you here? When she got no answer, she glanced at her clock. Because of Jin, she was back later than usual. Normally Naruto would already be here studying. Well, he was probably running late too. She decided to get dinner started since he would probably be dropping by any minute. As she began to cook, her stomach rumbled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten all day. That thought reminded her of the way Naruto had refused to let her have some of his blood. Not only had he refused to do that, he had largely ignored her in class and not even asked to walk with her once it was over. She couldn't understand why he had acted that way. She would definitely ask him about that when he came over. Kuyu stood there watching. When Naruto had been late to their training session, he had assumed that the idiot had once more skipped it. But instead, he'd shown up about an hour late demanding training. For whatever reason, he seemed extremely motivated tonight. He looked as Naruto stood there transformed and surrounded by his demonic cloak, two tails swinging about. Out of the middle of the cloak an arm shot out. It traveled 30 yards where a clawed hand formed and easily crushed a boulder, reducing it to fragments. Kuyu slowly clapped his hands. I must admit to being impressed, Uzumaki-san. Not only have you reached the two-tailed state, you were able to form and extend your aura in just a few hours. Given your previous progress, I was expecting this to take weeks. Yeah, well, I felt the need to work off some excess energy. Just where is all this fury coming from? I can feel it coming off of you in waves. Naruto glared at him. That's none of your business. Kuyu grinned. Have it your own way. It's getting late and you have already made far more progress than I was hoping for. We may as well end this. You go if you want, I'm not tired at all. He formed two arms out of the red chakra this time. He reached out with them to grab a small tree. He easily pulled it up out of the ground and then snapped it in half. Kuyu watched. His body is becoming more used to the power, his transformations are growing stronger and more stable. Everything is on track. The next morning Naruto found Mocha standing in the lobby nervously waiting for him. The usual crowd of adoring boys nowhere to be seen for once. As soon as she spotted him, she ran up to him. Naruto-kun. What happened? You never came by last night, and this morning I waited half an hour to work out with you. Are you feeling all right? Are you sick? He shook his head. I'm fine, Mocha-chan. Last night I figured you'd be busy with your interview, so I just decided to train. This morning I was feeling a little tired, so I didn't get up early. But I made dinner for you. And didn't you want to? Her face turned red and she looked down embarrassed. Didn't you want to spend the night with me? She whispered to him. Seeing her sad face made his heart ache a little. Cammy, I love her so much. He leaned over and gently kissed her. I'm very sorry, Mocha-chan, I just really got into my training and lost track of time. But I'll come over tonight, okay? His kiss and his gentle tone made her feel better. This was the Naruto she was used to. All right, having him so close, she pressed her face against his throat almost by instinct. Naruto-kun, you smell so good. Good. She was worried he would reject her again. Instead, though, she felt a hand gently pressing the back of her head. "Go ahead, Mocha-chan." Happily, she sank her teeth in and tasted that delicious blood. With his blood, her mind was set at ease. Naruto wasn't upset with her after all, everything was fine. For her, this was part of the special connection she shared with him. He was the only one she kissed, the only one she made love with, and the only one whose blood she drank. Heading towards the academy arm in arm, Naruto felt better. Everything was back to normal, everything was the way it was supposed to be. He looked over at her and smiled. He was sure about their love. They had already been through too much together to have any doubts of what they shared. Nothing that Jin character did could change that. Mocha-chan would never betray me. I trust her completely. She saw him smiling at her and smiled back. Naruto-kun, I wanted to tell you I won't be attending the club with you anymore. Huh? What do you mean, Mocha-chan? Don't the school rules require us to be in a club? Well, actually, Jin-senpai is short-handed at the newspaper club and he asked me to help him out. I want to be a good friend and it sounds like fun, so I agreed. Wait a minute. Naruto brought them to a halt. You're going to be working with that guy every day now? That's right, she said innocently. It should be fun. He grabbed her hand. Instead of heading down the road, he led them into the nearby woods. What are you doing? She asked. We need to have a talk in private. As soon as they were alone, Naruto told her what was on his mind. Mocha-chan, I want you to stop seeing that guy. Please don't join the newspaper club. She looked at him in surprise. But why, Naruto-kun? He's my friend and I want to help him. That guy is not your friend. He said harshly. All he wants is to sleep with you. She felt her face heat up at his accusing tone. Jin-senpai isn't that way at all. Oh, come on, Mocha-chan. The flowers, kissing your hand, walking with you, and now asking you to join his club. Isn't it obvious he's just playing up to you to try and get you into bed? She frowned at him. I've told him all about you, Naruto-kun. He knows I have a boyfriend and he respects that. All he wants is to be a good friend to me. Yeah, right. Well, what about you and Kurumu? She demanded. Don't pretend she doesn't want to get into your bed. I mean, she handed you a book filled with dirty pictures right in front of me. Fine then, you agree not to see Jin and I'll never talk to Kurumu again. You would actually do that? She couldn't believe it. You would throw away a friend just like that? He looked unhappy but nodded. Kurumu is a friend and I care about her. I would never want to hurt her like that, but the fact is I love you with all my heart, Mocha-chan. I would make any sacrifice just to be with you. And that includes not seeing Kurumu. Mocha shook her head. Naruto-kun, even though it bothers me sometimes, I would never ask you to abandon a friend. But I want you to show me that same respect. Jin-senpai is a friend, please don't ask me to just abandon him. Mocha, you're being naive, Jin is not a friend. Here, he reached out to grab her rosary. She stepped back and slapped his hand away. What are you doing? He frowned at her. Mocha-chan, you don't understand what's going on. I want to talk to the other Mocha, I'm sure she can see through this guy for what he is. I don't agree with you, and so you want to just dismiss me? She said angrily. You don't decide when my other self comes out, I do. And I don't appreciate you just wanting to get rid of me when you feel like it. Mocha-chan, it's nothing like that. She crossed her arms over her chest. Naruto-kun, I am joining the newspaper club and helping out my new friend. That is my decision, please respect it. Fine, in that case don't come up to or talk to me until you're ready to stop seeing that guy. He stomped away frustrated and angry. Naruto-kun. She called after him but he ignored her. Don't be this way. She ran after him. Once they were gone, a purple-haired girl stepped out from behind a tree. She'd heard every word. Kurumu made a point of looking around the table where they were all sitting. Well, I don't see Mocha anywhere. Yukari was looking very upset. Naruto-kun, did you and Mocha-chan have a fight? You could say that. He pushed the food on his tray about. Yukari got up and grabbed his arm, trying to force him to get up as well. Come on then. You two need to make up right now. Yukari, leave him alone. It's obvious he doesn't want to talk to her right now. Kurumu said. Yukari glared at the older girl. You're happy about this, aren't you? Kurumu shrugged. It was always inevitable they would break up eventually. We haven't broken up. He said it a bit more sharply than he'd intended. I still love Mocha and she still loves me. We're just having a disagreement right now, that's all. But I'm sure as soon as she sees the truth everything will be fine. But that's why you need to go talk to her. Yukari again tried dragging him out of his seat. It wouldn't do any good, Yukari-chan. She's not listening to anything I have to say right now. Fine, then I'll go and talk to her. Yukari left in a determined hurry. Yahoo, alone at last. Kurumu leaned over and pressed her massive breasts against him. It's almost like we're on a date, isn't it? Bam! Ow! Kurumu looked about after being hit by a snowball. You're not really alone. Mizore ducked back underneath a nearby table. Mizore-chan, please come and join us. Naruto called. Never mind her, Kurumu said as she brushed off snow from her sweater. I know you're upset, Naruto-kun. Is there anything I can do to help? Would you like to come over to my place later so we can talk? He shook his head. I don't think that would be a good idea. Like I've already said, I still love Mocha and she is still my girlfriend. Kurumu sighed. I understand, but if you need me, I'll be there for you anytime, and willing to do whatever it takes. She put her head down on his shoulder. After all, you are my destined one. He smiled at her. She could be a little too forward for his taste. Though he didn't mind adult Mocha when she was forward. But underneath all her aggressive bluster he suspected she was actually a sweet and slightly insecure girl. He really did like her, but he loved Mocha. Jin had introduced her to the other three girls who made up the newspaper club. She couldn't help but notice that they were all very pretty and didn't seem to like her much. The three of them had looked her over and then left as a group, though not before sending her some hard looks. I don't think they like me, Mocha said nervously. After the way Naruto had reacted, she was having some serious second thoughts about her decision. Jin sat down at the table next to her. He put a calming hand on her shoulder. Oh, they just need some time to warm up to you, that's all. He looked at her reassuringly. We've been together for a semester after all, so of course there's a bit of a bond there. Just give it a little time and I'm sure you'll fit right in. Do you really think so? Absolutely. And of course, any problem you have I'll be only too glad to help. She relaxed a bit, his warm open smile made her feel better. But still. To be honest, I'm not sure if this is the right choice. Naruto was really upset by my decision to come here. Really? From the way you described him I thought he would be more considerate of your feelings. Jin shook his head sadly. He's probably just afraid that he's not really good enough for you and that eventually you'll find someone who's a better fit. But that will never happen. I love him so much and there's no way I would ever choose anyone over him. Really? Jin's smile slipped just a bit. She nodded eagerly. I've told him that so many times. But he's still always worried that I'll be interested in someone else. He just won't accept that you are nothing but a friend to me. He thinks you're just wanting to take advantage of me. Jin just shook his head with a disappointed expression. I'm really sorry that he thinks so poorly of me. He even asked me not to talk to him as long as I kept seeing you. Did he now? Jin was very careful to keep any hint of eagerness out of his voice. So does that mean the two of you have gone your separate ways? No. Of course not. We're just having a little trouble right now. But I'm sure that as soon as Naruto-kun realizes that you and I are just friends, everything will be fine. I'm sure too. Jin carefully moved a bit closer to her. I mean, only a fool would risk losing an amazing girl like you. He was about to move his hand slightly when both his hands suddenly grabbed her breasts. Ack! Mocha jumped up and away from him. What are you doing? I don't know what happened. I swear my body just moved on its own. He knew just grabbing her was the wrong method. Though he certainly enjoyed the unexpected sneak preview. Mocha had a sneaking suspicion and ran over to the window. Sure enough, there was Yukari with a straw doll in her hands, the kind she could use to control people's movements. Yukari! I don't like him. Yukari said. That doesn't give you the right to do that to someone. Mocha scolded. Now, it's all right. Jin said with an easygoing grin. I don't blame her for reacting like this, obviously she's upset. Mocha sent him a grateful nod. Thank you for being so understanding. Yukari, you owe Jin-senpai an apology. No way. Why should I apologize when he's the one causing the problem? Mocha frowned at her. Yukari, Jin has done nothing wrong. The problem is that Naruto refuses to believe he doesn't have any ulterior motives. Of course, he does. Yukari said angrily. It's obvious even to me what he's after. She glared at the boy. Forget about it, the only people who will ever share Mocha's bed will be Naruto and me. Jin gave Mocha a questioning glance and she immediately blushed. Yukari, that's enough. Now apologize to Jin-senpai. Don't you even care that Naruto is really upset about all this? Of course, I do. But even if I love him, I can't let him tell me who my friends can be. I would never do that to him and I need him to treat me with the same respect. In the end, Yukari simply left without apologizing. The little attack on Jin had only convinced Mocha that he really was just being misunderstood by Naruto and the others. Despite some misgivings, she decided to go ahead and join the newspaper club. The next morning when Naruto went out early to work out, he did so alone. When he went out to get to class, there was no crowd of boys and no Mocha waiting for him. When he entered homeroom, he sat down in his usual seat. A few minutes later, Mocha entered and sat down in her usual seat next to him. Good morning, she said. Good morning, he said. They said nothing else to each other. When they walked to class, they did not hold hands or walk arm in arm, they both went separately. He had lunch with Kurumu and Yukari. She had a working lunch with Jin. When class ended, Naruto got to martial arts and then to a long training session with Kuyu. Mocha headed to the newspaper room where she started writing her first story, a fashion piece on the latest trends coming out of Paris. The whole time Jin generously remained at her side, being helpful and encouraging her. When work wrapped up, he walked her home. Neither of them noticed as a shadow clone watched carefully from a distance. For 2 full weeks, the only contact they shared was when they were in the same classroom. On Friday morning, he was surprised to find a crowd of boys standing outside the dorm. Almost as soon as he stepped outside, a familiar figure pushed free of the crowd and came over to him. She grabbed his arm and began leading him into the woods. Naruto-kun, can we talk in private? He nodded, really happy to be talking to her again. Sure. Almost as soon as they were alone, he grabbed her and began kissing her. She gladly returned his affections and they both eagerly enjoyed a prolonged make-up session. When they came up for air, Naruto smiled at her in relief. The last 2 weeks had been miserable, but it had been worth it. So does this mean you're finally ready to stop seeing Jin? He asked keenly. A worried look crossed her face. No, I really like working on the school newspaper and Jin is a lot of fun to work besides. He was surprised. He'd been sure she was going to tell him she wanted nothing to do with Jin anymore. Then why? She glomped onto his chest and squeezed with vice-like strength. Naruto-kun, I miss you. I miss us. Can we please stop this stupid fight? It's been 2 weeks and Jin hasn't done anything even a little inappropriate. Isn't that proof that he wants to just be friends and nothing more? It's proof that he has a lot of patience. She let go and looked up at him unhappily. You still don't trust him? No, he said flatly. She sighed. All right then, I'd really hoped we could all be friends, but I guess that would be asking too much. I won't ask you to like him, Naruto-kun, and I won't ask you to trust him, but I will ask you to trust me. If he tries anything even a little weird, I'll quit the newspaper club and never talk to him again. Even if he wants something to happen between us, can you trust that I won't let it happen? Mocha-chan, I've always trusted you, it's him I don't trust. Naruto, what are you really afraid of? He is not Saizu, he is not going to try and force me to do anything, and there's no way I'll consent to do anything, so what is there to be so afraid of? When she put it that way, she made it sound reasonable. After observing the two of them with his shadow clones, he had to admit that after 2 weeks nothing had happened. If Jin had been Saizu, he wouldn't have been able to control himself this long. Maybe he had overreacted a little. He still didn't trust Jin as far as he could throw him, but he did trust her. I guess you're right, Mocha-chan. He wrapped his arms around her tight. I trust you, and I guess you can handle things with him. He leaned down and kissed her again. I've really missed you, and I'm sick of us being apart. In that case, let's spend the whole day together tomorrow, she said happily. I have to work late tonight to finish up my article, but after that I'm totally free. I'll make some sandwiches and we can have a picnic. Then we can go back to my place and spend the rest of the day making love. He gave her a big smile of his own. How about we skip the picnic and just spend the whole day in bed? He asked eagerly. Laughing, she stood up on her toes to kiss him again. That's fine with me. Behind a large tree, Mizore watched silently as they noisily kissed before leaving to get to class. Kurumu was setting out humming a happy tune. Whatever anyone else might think, she was in a good mood. Over the last 2 weeks she and Naruto had been slowly drawing closer together. He had yet to come right out and announce he and Mocha were done. He had yet to confess his love for her. He had yet to kiss her. But she could feel the day drawing closer. They had started walking together to and from class. She had made him ramen and other meals and gotten to watch as he eagerly devoured them and asked her for more. Bit by bit she was starting to take Mocha's place, and she was sure that eventually Naruto would realize that she was the one he wanted. So, she was not at all prepared to spot the two of them walking towards class arm in arm. She stumbled and nearly fell. When had the two of them suddenly gotten back together? It's all over. Kurumu turned around to see Mizore standing behind her. What did you say? It's all over, Mizore repeated bleakly. They're going to spend all day tomorrow having sex. Even though she is still hanging out with Jin, she has convinced him that it'll be all right. I see, Kurumu said sadly. Well, this isn't over yet. Even if they've gotten closer again, I'll still win him over eventually. Mizore began laughing. What's so funny? You know, I thought I was pathetic stalking him the way I do, but at least I have enough sense of reality to know I'd have no chance against Mocha. She shook her head. You really think you have any hope at all? Naruto-kun cares for me just as much as he does for her. Kurumu said angrily. I know he does. Naruto-kun would never even speak to you again if that was what Mocha wanted. What are you talking about? Mizore quickly related the scene she'd witnessed 2 weeks ago. He really said that? Kurumu asked in a tiny voice. He really did, just be glad Mocha isn't the sort to want that. Mizore shrugged. Look, I didn't tell you this to try and hurt you, I just thought you ought to know the truth. If it were just you, I'd think I had a chance to win him over for myself. But against Mocha, there is just no hope. She's the one he really loves." With that, Mizore wandered off. Kurumu stood there for a little while before turning around and heading back towards the dorm and her room. "He is my destined one and I refuse to just give him up." Jin was in the newspaper room doing a little light editing as he eagerly awaited Mocha's arrival. All alone? Well, how convenient. Jin looked up from the table to see a beautiful blue-haired girl entering holding a covered plate. He immediately gave her a wide smile. "Well, if it isn't the lovely Kurono Kurumu, it's a real pleasure to meet you." She gave him an annoyed look. "Don't even bother, I'm a succubus, your so-called charm is wasted on me." He gave her a playful hurt expression. "Well, in that case, what can I do for you?" "It's what I can do for you. I'm going to help you get Mocha, at least for tonight." He eyed her very carefully. "What makes you think I'm interested in Mocha as anything more than a friend?" "The fact that you're male and have a pulse. Besides, Mocha's the only one who can't see what's right there." She set the plate in front of him and removed the cover. There was a cake already sliced. "I'm sure you have plans to be alone with her tonight. Give her some of this cake. I've baked in a variant of a succubus love potion. As soon as she ingests it, she will fall in love with the first man she sees. It won't affect males, so you don't have to worry about eating it yourself. The effects will only last a few hours, but that should be plenty for you to get what you want." Frowning at her, he pushed the plate away. "No thanks, I have my own way of winning a girl's heart." She smiled at him nastily. "Oh, you mean with that play acting you call charm? Well, you're free to rely on it if you want, but I think you should know that Mocha and Naruto are planning to have an all-day love-in tomorrow." What? What? They've decided to patch their difference and be together again. Good luck convincing her once she's back in his bed. If you really want her, that cake is your only chance. He looked at her suspiciously. "I thought you were her friend, why would you help me with this?" She looked him right in the eye. "Because I am a horrible and selfish person. I'm the sort of girl who would betray her friend and hurt the boy she loves just so she can be with him in the end." "And you know what?" She smiled. "I don't give a damn, because I love him just that much." "Thanks for staying late to finish the article," Jin told her. "Oh, no problem," Mocha said. "This way I don't have anything more to do before the deadline. Listen, how would you like a little snack?" He set down a small cake in front of her. "Thank you." She took a slice and began to eat it. Jin sat down in the chair next to her. He was feeling nervous and excited. "How is it?" he asked casually. "Good, it's..." She turned to look at him. "Something wrong?" He moved his chair so that it bumped against hers and put a hand on her shoulder. She suddenly felt her heart pounding. She'd always thought Senpai was good looking, but why had she never noticed how amazing his eyes were? "Are you all right?" He put a hand on her forehead and leaned in close. "Are you feeling a little hot, Mocha-chan?" At the feel of his touch, she felt warmth filling her body. She suddenly realized how close they were. She wanted him to get closer. "No!" She heard a voice calling from inside her mind. "Stop this. These feelings aren't real. He isn't the one we love." An image popped into her head, a face. A boy with blue eyes, spiky blonde hair, and the cutest scars on his cheeks. She knew this boy was really important to her, but somehow, she couldn't remember why. It was as though she were in a fog. All that seemed real was Jin-senpai, the feel of his hand touching her, his dark eyes looking into hers. This isn't real. What you feel is a trick and illusion. Naruto. Naruto is the one we both love, not him. Don't do this. Don't betray his trust. Don't betray the love that we share. The voice was desperate and she knew she should listen to it. I need to. Jin pressed his lips to hers and her heart seemed to soar. The voice seemed to cry out but she locked it away, she didn't want to listen to it. All she wanted was to love the man who was kissing her now. He had waited for her. He had decided he couldn't wait until tomorrow. After training with Kuyu he had gone to her apartment planning to surprise her whenever she came home. He waited until it was almost midnight before deciding he had to go check on her. And so, he'd gone to the newspaper room. The lights had all been off but for someone who could see in the dark that was no problem. The door hadn't been locked and he had simply walked right in. There they were. Lying on top of a table curled up in each other's arms. Both of them peacefully asleep and with contented grins. He just stood there, looking at them for a good 5 minutes. A part of him hoped they would wake up, a part of him wanted them to wake up and make excuses or beg his forgiveness. That was because if they did that, he knew he would murder them both. He stood there for 5 minutes. Finally, he turned around and left, carefully shutting the door behind him. When she felt the wind and leaves swirling, she suddenly sat up, pretending to be caught completely by surprise. She had actually spent hours thinking about this exact scenario. She had on an old tank top and some cotton panties because she had wanted to look sexy without looking as though she expected this. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Is something wrong? He just stared at her with a hopeless expression. You told me I could come to you anytime and you would do anything you could to comfort me. Does the offer still stand? Always, she came to stand before him and looked up into his sad face. She took a hold of his hands. Come with me, Naruto-kun, let me comfort you. He let her lead him to her bedroom. For tonight, just for tonight, he said quietly. In the morning. She looked up at him and smiled gently. I understand. When the morning comes, I won't expect anything. But just for tonight, she leaned up and gave him her very first kiss. I am yours. Chapter 21, When the Morning Comes. I was really worried because I was all alone, but now I'll have someone to do things with. I like you, Naruto, I truly do. To the other Mocha there is nothing more precious than you. Were she to lose you her heart would shatter. Whatever it is you tell me, I could never hate you. I love you and I will always love you. I love you very much. Never doubt that even if you do things you are not proud of, I will still love you. I will ask you to trust me. There's no way I'll consent to do anything, so what is there to be so afraid of? I love you. He opened his eyes to find himself standing in a cemetery. Well, this is familiar at least. He glanced at the nearby tombstones. Here lies Moriaka Jin, brutally murdered by a jealous man. Here lies Moriaka Jin, who died in fire. Here lies Akashi Yamoka, murdered by the one she professed to love. He looked about. Why am I here? I didn't want to talk to you. But you did, human, you called on me for help. And I will help you. The ground all around him began to shake. As he watched, the cemetery began to sink and fall away. To his horror, all the ground in front of him began collapsing and sinking. Soon the shaking stopped. He found himself at the very edge of a massive pit. Looking down, he could not see the bottom, all he could see was what looked like endless darkness. What the hell is this? You already know. This is what you truly want. You understand, don't you, human? He took a step back from the edge. No. He took another step back. I don't want this. Yes, you do. Somewhere inside your heart you have always wanted this. Embrace your destiny, this was fated to happen from the moment we were joined together. No. He shouted. This isn't what I want. All I ever wanted was love. He could hear the Kyuubi's laughter rumble from out of the pit. Is that what you want? I love you. A sweet and familiar voice spoke. He turned around. Mocha? She was there, not 15 feet from him. Her clothes had all been tossed aside, she was lying on the cold earth beneath one of the tombstones. Lying on top of her was an equally naked Jin. He stood there and just watched as Jin penetrated and began to thrust in and out of her. He heard her gasp as he first entered her, and then he heard the familiar groans and cries as she began to really enjoy what was happening. He was intimately familiar with those sounds, hearing them had always made him happy, always excited him. But now... "Stop it," he whispered. He wanted to look away but couldn't. Her groans began coming faster and getting more desperate. He could see the look on her face. "Stop it. Mocha-chan." Jin called. "Jin." She cried out joyously as she began to climax. Hearing her call out another man's name like that cut him like a knife. "I said stop it." White-hot fire poured out of both hands and consumed them. They both managed to just begin to scream before they were silenced. There was only the slightest whiff of burning meat. The fire was so hot it turned them to ashes after just seconds. From inside the pit the fox's laughter boomed out again. "Is that the love you so treasure?" He collapsed to the ground. "Please stop, I can't bear this. I can't bear to hurt like this anymore." "Why? Why did you do it? I thought you loved me. I can't bear this pain, it's too much." He really did feel that he was at his end. This final betrayal, he didn't think he had the strength to overcome it. "I trusted you, Mocha-chan, how could you? Embrace your destiny and you need not suffer like this any longer. Embrace the darkness and no one will ever again be able to hurt you like this." "Really?" That at least sounded good. "You must give up these silly notions of love and happiness, such things are not for you. Love only yourself, live only for yourself, and you will never suffer like this again." "Love only myself? Is that really the answer? Can't I love someone else? And when has your love for another ever given you anything but pain?" In his life he had loved only 3 people, the old man, Irika, and Mocha. Twice he had suffered when he had learned they had died without his having a chance to say goodbye. But that had been nothing compared to the pain of Mocha's treachery. He got up and walked back over to the edge. Looking down it really did seem to be bottomless. Just one step and you will never again endure the pain of betrayal. Embrace the hatred and rage inside and you will know savage joys and pleasures. Let go of the humanity that holds you down. Take but one more step and you will never again suffer as you have. Looking down into the blackness he had the sudden urge to do it, to just jump and finally be done with it. My hatred and rage have never hurt me, they've actually helped. It's my love and trust that always cause me pain. He looked down and felt the urge to do it. He shut his eyes and took a deep breath. No. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on a soft bed with Kurumu draped across him. She was asleep and he could see a small smile on her face. Not wanting to wake her, he slowly and carefully slipped out from underneath her. He got his clothes and got dressed as quickly and quietly as he could. "Naruto-kun?" A sleepy voice called. "What are you doing? It's not even light out. Come back to bed for a while." As he put on his jacket he leaned over and gave her a quick kiss. "I'm sorry, Kurumu-chan, I didn't mean to wake you. I always work out around this time and I really want to follow my routine." She sat up in bed, not giving her nudity any thought. "If you want to wait a little bit, I can make you breakfast." He shook his head slightly. "That's okay. Can we at least have lunch together later?" She asked a bit worriedly. Despite what she said earlier, she'd given her virginity to the man she loved. She didn't want him to see it as something cheap and meaningless. He smiled at her and gave her another kiss, this one a bit longer. "Yeah, we can have lunch, how about I meet you in the lobby at noon?" "That sounds great," she spoke in an impulsive rush. "You know that I truly love you, right? I really do." He looked over at her. "Please don't." "What? What do you mean? Please don't love me, Kurumu-chan. I don't want to love or be loved by anyone. We can have sex, we can go out on dates, and you can call me your boyfriend. I'll do everything I can to treat you well like a boyfriend should. But don't love me. She stared at him, not sure what to make of his strange declaration. He was her destined one, the one she was meant to spend her whole life with. She really did love him. She wanted him to love her as well. She wanted him to love her with the complete abandon he had shown with Mocha. She wanted him to show her that same passionate and total adoration. Naruto-kun, let's talk about this later, okay? He performed some hand signs and was gone. The pre-dawn light was drifting in and she was slowly stirring awake. She felt a little stiff and her back ached a bit, but she was aware of a familiar warmth. Instinctively she smiled and pressed her face against his chest. She couldn't remember the details, everything from last night seemed foggy, but it didn't matter. They were finally together again. Naruto-kun. She wanted to breathe in his delicious scent. And that was when she realized something was really wrong. This scent, it's not Naruto-kun's. She opened her eyes and came fully awake. She was lying on top of Jin and they were both completely naked. No! She pushed off and scrambled away, desperate to get some space between them. Oh, what have I done? Her brain quickly processed that they were in the newspaper room and that they'd been lying on top of one of the work tables. And to her disgust she also realized there was something sticky all over her thighs. She spotted her clothes lying strewn across the floor and quickly started getting dressed. Morning, Mocha-chan. Jin was propped up on his elbows grinning at her. You don't need to be worried, it's Saturday, no one will be coming in to disturb us. Seeing him awake she quickly covered up her breasts and turned her back to him. Don't look at me when I'm getting dressed. He laughed and continued to look as she got her bra on. It's a little too late to be shy, don't you think? She looked over her shoulder to glare at him. What did you do to me? He looked smug. Everything you asked me to. I have to admit I was surprised at some of the things you wanted me to do. You come off as sweet and innocent, but you're just a little bit of a freak, aren't you? Her face turned a deep red. What I enjoy doing with my boyfriend is none of your business. Now, no need to be so hostile. I'm not trying to take you away from him, I don't mind sharing. He continued to simply lie there on the table. Unlike Mocha, he seemed to have no concern at all about being naked. She hissed at him as she finished buttoning her shirt. Sharing? You're disgusting. The only one I want to be with is my boyfriend. Just what did you do to me last night? How did you force me into this? Force you? Oh, Mocha-chan, that hurts. I would never force you to do anything. You were the one who came on to me. All I did was give you what you wanted. That's a lie. I would never do that. A voice spoke to her. You were drugged. There was something in the cake he gave you, probably love potion. The rosary is speaking to me? Does that mean the enchantment is weakening? But she put that to the side. She turned around to glare at him hatefully. You drugged me, she said accusingly. You drugged and took advantage of me, you raped me. She screamed at him. Even though she knew it was useless, she yanked on the rosary. She wished there was a way for her to release her other self for just 1 minute. He frowned at her and sat up. That's a horrible accusation to make, Mocha-chan. I never force a girl to sleep with me, I don't have to resort to that sort of thing, just ask the other girls in the club if you want. And even if what you say is true, there's no evidence, so it would just be your word against mine. She grabbed the rosary and yanked it one more time with all her strength, but it didn't give way. Oh. If I could just let my other self out right now. You're despicable. Naruto was right about you from the start, wasn't he? All you were ever interested in was this. You were never interested in my friendship, you were just wanting to sleep with me. Jin shrugged. Now that he'd had her, he didn't much care what she thought about him. Well, you are awfully hot. She glowered at him and adjusted her skirt. She was fully dressed now. What do I do about Naruto-kun? This will destroy him. Is there any way I can keep this a secret? A bitter laugh rang through her head. You stupid girl, haven't you noticed it yet? Noticed what? Take a deep breath of the air in this room and concentrate, see if you can't find something familiar. She did as her other self instructed, and was able to pick out a scent that was several hours old. Naruto-kun's scent. He was here? He was probably worried and came here to check up on you. He knows. Oh Naruto-kun, what have I done? How can I ever win back your trust? I have to find him. I have to explain what happened and beg his forgiveness. Before you do that, take another deep breath. There's one more scent you should recognize. Mocha took another deep breath and tried to sort through the various scents. Sure enough, she found one that was about half a day old. There was a sudden loud pounding on her door. Hold on, I'm coming. Kurumu answered it. Mocha, what? You bitch. Mocha screamed as she punched her right in the face, knocking her down. You gave it to him, didn't you? You baked that cake he gave me and you put some sort of love potion in it, didn't you? Kurumu looked up at the girl and got back up to her feet. So, what if I did? I was just trying to help you and your precious Jin-senpai. Before Mocha could make another accusation, she noticed a scent that was heavy in the air. She looked at Kurumu and felt her heart starting to break. Naruto-kun's scent, it's all over you. That's right, Kurumu said proudly. After he saw the way you betrayed him, he came to me for comfort. I never betrayed him. I was tricked, I was raped. Thanks to you. Oh, don't try and blame this all on me. Kurumu shot back. I may have given the last little push, but who was it that was so infatuated with Jin? You stayed right by his side even though you knew it was hurting Naruto. I was trying to be a friend. I was never interested in him as anything more than that. Are you sure? Not even just a little? Everyone told you what kind of guy he was and why he was giving you so much attention. If Naruto told me my seeing someone bothered him, I would stop seeing him. Maybe unlike you, I care about people's feelings. Maybe I'm just not as selfish as you are. Oh, I don't know, abandoning Naruto for a couple weeks to hang out with your new friends seems pretty selfish to me. If I had known what he really wanted, I never would have done it, and anyway this doesn't change the fact you helped him rape me. Kurumu smiled smugly. I'm sure you hated every second of it. Screaming, Mocha attacked her. Kurumu transformed and was able to easily pin Mocha against the wall. She placed her razor-sharp claws over her throat. Stop this, Mocha, I don't want to hurt you. You don't want to hurt me? What do you think you did? I think I showed him who he should be with. I'm sorry I hurt you, Mocha, I really am. But I love Naruto-kun too much to lose him to you. I love him too. Mocha cried out. He is the only one I have ever loved. He took away my loneliness and I can't imagine not being with him. Well, you don't have to imagine, because you're not with him anymore. I am his girlfriend now. She let go of Mocha and gave her a slight push towards the door. Now leave. I'm going to tell Naruto the truth about what happened and about what you did. You tell him whatever you want, Kurumu shot back. I'll deny it. Who do you think he'll believe? His adoring girlfriend or the slut that he caught naked with her senpai in a classroom? We'll see who Naruto-kun believes. Mocha said as she left. Jin had just gotten dressed and was getting ready to leave when there was a light knock on the newspaper room door. He had a sudden hopeful smile. Maybe Naruto tore her apart and she needs a shoulder to cry on. He certainly wouldn't object to giving her some comfort. Is that you, Mocha-chan? He opened the door. No, not Mocha-chan. Naruto had a huge smile as he grabbed the taller boy by the throat and yanked him forward. Let's go somewhere and talk. The two of them vanished in a swirl of wind and leaves. Chapter 22, I can forgive, but... You know, most of the boyfriends are usually satisfied with just punching me a few times. Jin said. Yeah? Well, no one's ever really considered me normal. Naruto replied in a calm enough voice. I can see that. At the moment Jin was naked and being suspended a couple feet in the air by a set of chains shackled to his wrists. He looked over at Naruto and decided to try and make a joke. If you're planning to have your way with me, I think you should know I don't do that sort of thing. Naruto chuckled a little. That would be a fitting punishment though, wouldn't it? I mean, considering what you did. Well, be sure to at least kiss me first and tell me you'll call me after it's done. Naruto actually laughed. You're a funny guy, Jin, and you're brave too, telling jokes to someone who'd sooner kill you than look at you. I'm starting to understand why Mocha likes you so much. Jin's mind was racing to try and come up with some way out of this. As soon as he'd come to and found himself chained up, he transformed and tried to bust loose. But the chains had held firm. Maybe if the full moon was out, he could somehow manage it, but during daylight, as a werewolf, he was at his weakest. If he was going to survive this, he was going to have to rely on his wits. You know, as far as that goes, I want to apologize to you. Really? Jin nodded and tried to seem as sincere as possible. Honestly, I had no idea the sort of bond the two of you share. Obviously, I was wrong to ever think I could come between the two of you. I hope you can understand that what happened was an honest mistake. Naruto smiled a bit and Jin started to get a very bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. So, you're saying that fucking my girlfriend on a school table was a mistake? So did your dick just sort of accidentally slip into her? Jin could feel himself start to sweat. I really am sorry. Oh, I know you are. Naruto began to approach him. But that's only because I have the power and the inclination to really make you suffer. You're only sorry because you're afraid. If I were some weak powerless guy, you wouldn't give a damn how much I had to go through because of what you did. Look, can you please just tell me what you want from me? I'm sure we can work something out. I'll stay away from Mocha from now on and promise to never even talk to her again. Naruto gave him a huge smile. And what is the promise of a dead man worth? Jin got the distinct impression that Naruto might suddenly start screaming like a madman. What do you want? I just called you a dead man, didn't I? So, I want to kill you, obviously. But first I want to torture you for a while, partly to find out exactly what happened last night, but mostly just because I want to hear you scream. This warehouse we're in, Mocha and I were attacked here once. It's a long way from anywhere people might be, so feel free to scream to your heart's content. He created a small orange flame at the tip of one finger. Listen, Mocha told me all about you. She told me you were powerful and willing to kill and do terrible things when necessary. But she also told me you were never wantonly cruel. He laughed. Did she ever mention that I was the possessive type? He pressed his finger into Jin's shoulder and was immediately rewarded with a loud cry. Where is he? Where can he be? She'd spent the entire morning running around looking for him. She'd gone to his dorm and had a message sent to his room, only to be told he wasn't there. She'd checked the cafeteria, the general store, and the places he liked to work out. There was not a trace of him anywhere. She was ready to do anything to win him back. Finding out about what he'd done with Kurumu had really hurt, but she couldn't honestly blame him. After all, she had broken their trust first. I know if I can just tell him the truth that he'll forgive me. But I have to find him first. Panting, Jin tried to somehow not to give in to the searing pain. Do you want some water? Jin was surprised to see Naruto holding a canteen up to his mouth. Jin eagerly opened up his mouth. Naruto tipped the canteen and let him drink his fill. Thank you for that. I didn't think you were going to give me any. Well, I don't want you to become dehydrated. Naruto said politely. I don't want you to accidentally die on me. I plan to keep this going for weeks, maybe months. Maybe I'll bring you copies of your newspaper and let you read articles about you being missing. He was still smiling. All through the torture session Naruto had kept that huge smile plastered on his face. Jin's arms and chest were a mass of fresh burn scars. You're really getting off on this, aren't you? Yeah, I am. I guess that makes me pretty sick, huh? Kind of like a guy who would drug a girl just to be able to use her. Jin nodded. Yes, I admit what I did was terrible. I'll confess to the authorities and leave school. I'll never go anywhere near Mocha again. You've already taught me my lesson, please, can't we end this? Haven't I suffered enough? No, you haven't suffered anywhere near enough. You still don't get it, do you? You're not leaving this place alive. If I decide to take pity on you, all that means is that I'll kill you quicker than I would otherwise. What you did is totally unforgivable, and I'm not even talking about using the love potion. You knew from the very start that Mocha loved me and that I loved her, but you didn't give a damn. You tried to seduce her away from me just so you could sleep with her one time. It didn't matter that you were going to destroy a once-in-a-lifetime love or deeply hurt two people. You wanted to fuck her, and that was all that counted. You didn't care how much pain you inflicted on anyone else, all you cared about was getting what you wanted. So, tell me, Jin, why should your pain matter to me? But do I really deserve to die? Jin pleaded. I admit to being selfish and cruel and to hurting the two of you. But do I really deserve death? Well, I think you do, and I'm the only one who gets to decide. Naruto, a woman's voice, called out to him. Please stop. He looked over to the entryway and was surprised to see Mizore slowly approach him. You know, Mizore, you would make one hell of a ninja, your stealth skills are off the charts. Naruto, please stop this now. She continued to approach him. I've been watching you for a while and I heard his confession. I know what he did and I agree that he deserves to be punished, but killing him would be going too far. He smiled at her. Please leave, Mizore, this has nothing to do with you. Naruto-kun, this isn't you. You're not the sort of person to be this cruel. Actually, I am, but you wouldn't know that from just talking to me a couple times. He shook his head a bit. I'm actually very cruel. No, you're not, she said simply. Maybe you try to be, but you're not. You have a kind nature, I've watched you a lot and I know that for sure. For my precious people I may be kind, but for him I have no mercy at all. I'm sorry, but you mustn't cross this line. Naruto was suddenly surrounded by ice. I don't want you to do something you'll regret when your anger finally fades. He looked at her in surprise. No need to worry, Mizore-chan, I'm very good at holding a grudge. He activated his demonic cloak and the ice shattered. Three tails swung about. Mizore froze and stared at the now transformed Naruto. She could feel the immense power that surrounded him. You don't have to look so scared, Mizore-chan. I'm not angry with you, you are one of my precious people and I won't hurt you. But I won't let you interfere either. Please go. Naruto, you don't want to do this. No, I really do. He looked at her. Please go. Seeing she could not convince him on her own, she decided to leave and get some help. When Naruto turned back towards Jin, he was looking nervous. So, the rumors were all true, you really do have a demonic aura. Naruto smiled at him. And a jealous streak. Anyway, since I'm sure she'll bring people here, I think we should hurry things along. I've already told you everything. Oh, I know, I just want to hear you scream some more before I kill you. Kurumu was standing in the lobby dejectedly looking at the clock, it was almost 1. Mocha spotted her and came up to her. You're waiting for him, aren't you? Kurumu looked at the other girl. He's not coming, he's already an hour late. But you're still here waiting, aren't you? Kurumu sighed and nodded. I used to do this to the boys I charmed all the time. I would have them go do something and then just forget about them. They'd come back up to me the next day whining about waiting hours for me and me never showing. I guess this must be karma, huh? No, Mocha said. After what you've done, I'm sure karma has something much worse planned for you. Kurumu glared at her. Anyway, as long as you're waiting here for him I will too. You two want to see Naruto? Mizore walked into the lobby. I know where he is. Naruto was somehow not surprised to see who Mizore had brought back with her. Naruto-kun. Mocha and Kurumu both shouted his name and ran up to him. He was in his normal form. He remained where he was and did not respond to either girl. The two of them came to within 5 feet and then halted. They eyed each other while eyeing Naruto, waiting for him to give them some sort of response. Mizore entered more cautiously, trailing the other two. She was eyeing the spot where Jin had been. The chains were still there, but Jin was nowhere to be seen. There was a slight smell of smoke in the air. What happened to Jin? Mizore asked. I killed him. Naruto answered calmly. All 3 girls stared at him for a moment. Good, Mocha said savagely. Kurumu just stood there silently looking nervous. You really killed him? Mizore asked. Naruto nodded. Where is the body then? He pointed to a pile of blackened ashes that were below where the chains were. He held out a hand and created a flame that glowed white. All 3 girls had to step back as the heat from that small amount of flame felt like an open oven. My hottest fire, it doesn't leave much behind. He actually got off a lot lighter than he deserved. I was planning to spend months torturing him. But I decided it would be best to just end things since you knew. Mizore looked him straight in the eye. I know what you did. What are you going to do to me? Nothing, he said. I haven't become so cruel as to hurt someone who is precious to me. He gave the blue-haired girl a glance. Not even if she has deliberately hurt me. Kurumu flinched. What if I tell everyone what you did? Mizore asked. Then I'll have to leave the academy and never come back. But I won't hate you for it. Do what you feel you need to. I won't try and stop you. Mizore looked at him, not understanding. How can you be so considerate to me and so cruel to someone else? He shrugged. I guess it just comes down to the fact that I don't hate you. Mocha turned and looked at Mizore. Please don't tell anyone about this. Jin betrayed my trust and raped me. So far as I'm concerned, what Naruto did was justice. If I could have unleashed my other self, she would have killed him. Please don't punish Naruto for doing something I would have done myself if I could have. Mizore looked at Mocha's expression. She was so much more intense than he was. She could really believe that he didn't care one way or another what she did. I won't say anything. With that, she simply turned around and left. With that, the 2 remaining girls looked at Naruto. He seemed completely calm. He looked at Kurumu and tried not to glance at Mocha. Both girls were nervous and worried about what would happen next. I think you should both know that Jin told me everything before I finished with him. I know all about the cake and the love potion. He gave Kurumu a very hard look. Why did you do it? You completely betrayed Mocha and you hurt me. Why? She looked down in shame. I'm so sorry, but I was desperate. Mizore told me how you offered to never talk to me again if that was what Mocha wanted. And then she told me the 2 of you were about to get back together again. I love you, Naruto-kun. I love you so much. You're the one I want to spend my life with, the one I want to have a family with, my destined one. And I was afraid that if you got back together with Mocha, I would lose you for good. I was desperate to be with you. I know what I did was horrible, but I did it for you, Naruto-kun. I did it because I love you. You don't deliberately hurt the people you love. Naruto said. You don't betray people who have befriended you. Do you have any idea just how much you hurt me? And what you did to Mocha was even worse. I know, I'm sorry. You should apologize to Mocha too, not just to me. Kurumu turned to the other girl. Mocha, I am sorry for what I helped him do to you. Mocha looked at her and shook her head. I'll never forgive you, but so long as you never speak to me again, I'll let you live. I won't even have my other self tear your wings off. I can forgive you, Naruto said. But I don't want anything more to do with you. Kurumu looked at him and felt her heart breaking. Everything had been for him, so that they could finally be together. And for one night, they finally had been. But now he was staring at her with such cold and unkind eyes. Naruto-kun, please don't say that. Give me a chance to make it up to you. No, he said flatly. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew the sort of pain it would cause and you did it anyway. In a lot of ways, you're as bad as Jin was. The only difference is that I used to care about you. You used to be precious to me, but not anymore, you're nothing to me now. Naruto. She spoke in a pleading wail. Please just go, Kurumu. His voice was harsh and uncompromising. He hates me now. I've really lost him. She couldn't bear the way he was looking at her. She turned and ran away. Her heart breaking with every step. Mocha was now alone with him. She looked at him with nervous fear, but also with hope. You know that I was drugged, right? You know that I would never have betrayed you, Naruto-kun. Naruto kept his eyes slightly down, deliberately refusing to look at her. I know about the love potion. I know you weren't in control when it happened. She noticed the way he refused to look at her. She could hear the strain in his voice. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? You know that I didn't really betray you, right? I love you, Naruto-kun. You mean everything to me. Then you shouldn't have left me for 2 weeks, he said bitterly. Naruto. I'm sorry, but I don't think I can talk to you. Can I talk to the other Mocha? But why? She asked desperately. Why won't you talk to me, Naruto-kun? Because when I look at you now, I see you lying naked on top of Jin. He answered harshly. All right, she said in a little girl voice. Take off my rosary. Nodding, he reached out and did just that. Mocha was quickly transformed into her adult self. As soon as she was present, she did something Naruto had never imagined she ever would. She fell to her knees and bowed her head to him. Uzumaki Naruto, I beg your forgiveness. Even if it was not done of her own free will, the fact is the other Mocha broke the trust you had in us, while I was not strong enough to prevent it. I know the pain of betrayal and I can only plead with you that you grant us a second chance. I can only tell you that you remain the only one that we love and that both I and my other self will do anything to earn your trust again. He said nothing as he approached her. He gently took a hold of her by her shoulders and helped pull her back to her feet. Please get up, Mocha, you don't need to plead, I forgive you. He looked her directly in the eye. And I have to ask your forgiveness as well. After I saw the other Mocha with Jin, I went to Kurumu and I spent the night in her arms. The adult Mocha slowly nodded. I know, and though I once promised to kill you if such a thing ever happened, I cannot fault you when the other Mocha was unfaithful to you. I forgive you. Thank you, Mocha. He was looking at her with such sadness. She reached up and touched his face, or tried to. He pulled away from her and stepped back. What is wrong? You have forgiven us and we have forgiven you. Can we not put this in the past and be together now? I'm sorry, but even though I can forgive, I can't forget. I can't look at the other Mocha without seeing her with Jin. My heart has shattered, and I don't think I can put the pieces together again. He sighed and looked completely beaten. Maybe this is for the best. Maybe I'm really not meant to love or be loved. Maybe someone with a demon inside him really doesn't deserve to try and be happy. What are you saying, Uzumaki Naruto? I'm saying that even though I forgive you and the other Mocha, I still can't be with you. Loving others has only ever caused me pain, so I will stop loving other people. From now on I will love only myself. Mocha stared at him. Won't you be lonely? She asked in a sad voice. Probably, he handed her back the rosary. But maybe for me there is no avoiding it. Anyway, I think I'd rather just be lonely than to hurt like I do now. As he gave her back the cross, he let his hand brush against hers. Goodbye, Mocha. He performed the hand signs and was gone. Mocha was all alone. She slipped the rosary into a pocket. You are a fool, Uzumaki Naruto, she choked out as bitter tears began to run down her cheek. A fool. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.